and I look a little ropey. How are you? I'm hoping to be joined by a few friends this evening. Um, they've not yet arrived, so hopefully we've got our time schedules right. Hey, Joshua. How are you, brother? I'm good. Hope you are, and I hope the family is too, and the new arrival to soon be with us. Hey, Bonbon, Raw Poet. How you going, Squirrel Sniper? Nice to see you, Nathan. I hope things are going well for you over in your neck of the woods, my friend. Baldini just ended. All right. Hey, Jack. Thank you. The timing is obviously just happenstance. I have yet to establish any kind of routine for having conversations, settling into things. This Baldini chap is interesting. I don't think I know who that is. I've heard the name a few times, but probably remiss of me not to have gone and looked at his contribution. I don't know enough about him to make any comment. Hey, Mike Pepper. Yeah, so just run through a couple of these. Say hello. Thanks very much for stopping by or coming to this stream. I am hopefully speaking with Plain Permaculture this evening, Jason, and Zoom Truth, I believe, is going to be joining us. So I really hope that Dave can come along. The purpose of the conversation today is, well, some of you may know I had a live stream with Plain Permaculture and Jason a long time ago. It feels like years and years ago. It was probably last year, but so much has transpired since then. So we thought we'd have a catch up, talk a little bit about the Plain Permaculture movement or the ethos behind around permaculture, and then I was keen to talk about things that are perhaps more immediate in most people's lives. I can assure you that the time that I have, Andrew and I have, the free time we are spending researching, trying to find some of the answers that we don't yet have. We know that we're being put through a significant test at this time. I'm sure most of us are. And I know in some ways this might feel like there's certain advantages to what's going on. But we know that there's something big brewing, and we also know that we are divine, and that our true heritage has been stolen, misplaced, given away, whatever language you like to use. And it feels to me right that we shouldn't be, a new normal should not be one in which we just make a new deal with the system that is. For me, Renaissance now, I'll add you in. For me, there is something that, are you in there yet, mate?
Yeah, Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Jason.
Oh, hey, guys. How's it going? Hey, Dave. Good to see you again, man.
Likewise. Well, I can't see you at the moment, but...
oh, yeah. Here, I'll show you. I got some fun new glasses.
Those are some pretty cool glasses. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just picked them up yesterday from... I was about 2 or 3 months without glasses. So
that's those must be... I thought those were like global glasses for the wide-angle lenses that they use to look at the horizon. I was just sorry I was just actually in a thought stream that I'll just finish with the chat to whoever's listening afterwards, and then I'll get you to do a quick intro if you don't mind, Jason.
Sure.
Really, I was saying that I feel going forward, humanity has to do one of two things. It either has to sort of acquiesce and move into a new normal, which I think that for the vast majority at this time may be what has to happen. But it may also be that we are meant to be like moving more towards this sovereign God. The word I used just now was our God-given heritage, perhaps, Jason. I think that we're actually there is a God-given heritage, and we are always making allowances or concessions for a system that grabbed it from us and doesn't want to talk about that it grabbed it from us some few centuries ago. And I think that all of the good work that people are doing in the activism space and how do we work with the new normal, or what's it going to be like, or how's it all going to be and stuff. It's like, wow, we're sort of living and fighting and punching within the straw man that has been created by the system. And I feel compelled to seek ways to return or remember what is our true heritage and our rightful entitlement here. Now, it may be that actually the world is why it is because we cannot handle our entitlement. We are not worthy to carry the mantle of shepherds or husbands of the land and so on. It may be that, and I think that's part of the balancing act is that we've got a system that's completely out of whack. We've got a humanity that is so reduced in its insight or its knowing that it is both the system that is in a bad shape, and it is humanity, God's creation, that the primary creation here, that is in bad shape. Nature herself is in very good shape.
Yeah.
And nature is I think unquenchable in that sense. And perhaps if we were closer to nature, we would be less far from a more God-centered, appropriate a relationship with ourselves, with each other, and with the world itself. So that I just wanted to kind of say that's where my thinking is at. I feel like humanity is being put through the ringer. The reasons for that are debatable. The motives, the machinery behind that is very much up for discussion and debate. Although this generally tends to be, again, a bit of a straw man, because it's like we can't see it we will always call on it, we will always vote for it, and I'm talking in the general terms, we will always vote for it whilst we don't realize our own power. So I'm really trying to say, how do we return to our own power, and do so in a loving way, non-combative way kind of thing. But
yeah, I've been talking a lot to my wife had made a friend with a Jehovah's Witness, and they would do like a Monday morning Bible studies, and then I started talking to his husband, or her husband, and so we talk every week. And I love that Jehovah's Witnesses reach out and communicate. But the one point of contention that we keep having, or not contention, but it's the debate. It's just the way I see the world is like, they're very literal about the Bible, at least from my understanding. And I was saying to him, the Genesis story, this idea of a man and a woman in a garden being presented with an apple by a snake, that's a very literal understanding for them. I don't want to generalize the whole group, but at least for the friend that I've made. But I said to him, that's in my mind, that didn't happen. That's happening right now. we're Adam and Eve every day being asked, do you want to take a bite from the satanic apple, which is this system, which is the monetary system, which is the government system, which is our dependence on their supply chains. And it's being asked of us every single day. It's not, their interpretation is that this was a choice made by one set of humans, however many years ago. And the children all have to suffer the consequences because of that choice. And I'm saying, no, we are Adam and Eve. We're in the garden every single day that we participate in a satanic system through ways that we don't even understand until we gain the awareness of what it is. It is the big box retailers. It is voting. It is like saying, "Oh, my president," or it is paying your taxes. Like this is all what's keeping us from this Eden-like state that we're meant to return to. And so, the two, like Owen Benjamin, I think, is just doing it right. Like you have to take the land back. You have to take, have a community that's based on feeding itself first and foremost, and based on knowing that it can produce and provide the things it needs, and unplugging from this, the grabbler system that he would call it. And as you cut one more tie and one more tie, you're returning to your, the sovereignty we're meant to inherit here. The Jehovah's Witness point of view is that we're just meant to sort of suffer this vision of this reality as it is, and it's supposed to go into more and more decay, and that then there will be a return of Jesus Christ that will, sort of wipe it all away. Or if you die, you'll wake up in that new Eden. And I don't know. I'm like, maybe, but why don't we try while we're here to, like, it seems like Owen Benjamin was just talking about this yesterday. It seems like if the satanic system had so much power and control, like the Amish just wouldn't exist. They're a very based culture that's providing for themselves, and they seem to be thriving right now. Because they didn't get tricked into the debt system. They didn't get tricked into the like consumerist system. They didn't get tricked into the electricity trick. And now they're untouchable without, you have to go in there with soldiers and kill them. And I just don't think, I don't know. I know the Holodomor happened, and I always get stuck up on that, the communists going into the Ukraine and just being able to starve millions of Christians to death. And that was only 100 years ago. So, I like to say that we're protected, and that, the boots aren't going to kick down our door and take us over if we have some kind of community or we start unplugging from their systems. And that's sort of where Owen Benjamin is at. He's like, no, the Holodomor is not coming again. I'm like, maybe it's not. I mean, maybe enough of us will learn. And there is, like you said, we're in some kind of trial. Like, I think we're in like a soul tumbler. Like when I was a kid, I would make polished rocks. And so, you put all these, rough rocks into a tumbler with some sand, and they grind away at themselves for like, I don't know, days. And then you get these polished stones. And I just think that's what we're in. Like, we're not here to have like a real comfy experience or cozy experience. I think we're here to have our edges softened and to be able to come out of this experience, like, humble. I was, especially when we're young, we're not that humble. We feel invincible, and we feel like, I don't know, we know things more. Than as you get older, you get a little more humble, and you get a little more wary or weary.
Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another way of thinking about it, and that is that okay, so the Creator knows you're coming down into a bit of a cesspool in which everything you're going to receive has been tainted or is toxic. And the challenge is, do you allow yourself to, because that's what they say. They say you come here with free will, in a sense. That frightening Freemasonry thing. They say, do as thou wilt. I was talking to a lad about it the other day, and I was saying, well, actually, maybe that's actually true. Is that although there are consequences, you can come here and do as thou wilt. And people over time have come into this, what I call the Minecraft game, and they have carved up sections of themselves, of it for themselves. And then they use various legal wranglings to control everyone that comes after that. Now, is that divinely intended, to allow the Satan character, to allow evil, to allow the darkness to flourish?
I mean, like I've seen, I don't know, just in my experience, every time I've crossed the line, like seriously crossed the moral line, invisible line in this reality when I was younger, and like it would smack me in the face, like you don't go there. Like, like I was selling drugs, and then like within a month I had a knife at my throat. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah.
I would steal something, and then within a week, the guys I stole it from would show, like, I would just randomly meet them, and they would have like a gang of them, and they knew what I did, and it was like, in that one situation, these two girls were with me and pulled me out of there, but I was a wise ass and just trying to mouth off at them. So, but I saw like such anger and hatred for me in that moment, and like I never had that. I mean, I had a choice if I wanted to keep pushing into that terrible of consequences for my actions, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to. It just felt horrible. Like every
Never
time.
felt naturally right somehow. I
Yeah.
was the same. Yeah, I was the same. I got up to some naughty stuff or got involved in some stuff, but as things got darker and I knew that this wasn't really my thing. I never felt comfortable with that. That never sat naturally to me. But it's interesting because it does seem to sit naturally with some people. There is a cohort of people for whom some of those darker, or they're more naturally suited to it. They thrive in it. It doesn't seem to trouble their soul in the way that it's, and having spent time in, as I said in my last podcast, I was in a nightclub scene in Cape Town for a while, and it was pretty dark. And there's people who made a career out of it, and are still in it now, or have died involved in it. And so I do wonder about the psychopathy that exists. And you see, we are I think in the electromagnetic terms, we are like light and dark, we are positive and negative, we are red and blue. Each of us, both of those things. We have the potential for darkness and the potential for all love. I think God has within the remit of all activities, from this most satanic thing to the most beautiful thing, because the Creator creates everything, so everything is inside of that. And so we have, I think, within us that potential. Now, when you come here, you possibly come here with a vibration that you carry from your forefathers, and certainly in the modern context, you then arrive into a series of vibrations which are designed to cause you a sort of an altering or a shattering of the personality. In fact, Andrea and I have been exploring the heel prick that they do as a baby is born. I think it's worldwide, but they'll prick the baby in the heel first thing they do, and that actually goes right into the sciatic nerve. That prick, and so you damage that. And if you've ever stood on a really sharp thorn at that part of your heel, wow, the pain shoots right up into your groin. So if you cause a groin injury at 1 minute old to a child, and the groin is your lower chakras. This is where the dark energies are. This is where, if you like, hell resides, is in the lower. And there's nothing wrong with having your lower ego or your lower chakra. This is an essential part. But if I can damage that, if I can split the root, if I can create a fracture when you're young, or maybe circumcise you when you're 8 days old, cause you trauma in that area, is that going to have a psychological effect? Well, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to work that out, right? So I think that what we're doing is we are either through the cycle of rebirth, and the additional traumas from day one onwards, as we know through schooling and all other things, we are not who we should be. Now, some of us are beginning to work that out, but we realize that the majority of people are not working that out, not yet. So for me, my thinking is like, so how do you help people realize that, one, they've been deceived and damaged, and two, they are something magnificent, and they should work towards attaining that. We live in a world that wants the complete opposite, materialism. Takes every good thing and sort of perverts it. until everybody's like, oh no, I can't even go and look at that because it's so far, it's been so perverted, it's so, people don't have any idea of what's right and what's wrong, and so it's a series of beliefs and traumas that I think that hold us in a disabled state, and we all come from that, and most of us are still working through that, as far as I can tell. And I think what I want to do is try and identify that, because whilst it's great to be developing, going back to and the natural ways, this seems to me to be, it's obviously the opposite of what the system wants. They want all robotized people, but we're going back to the natural ways. Should be the natural, that should be the order of things. But people are never going to choose that whilst they're still in those states as I just described.
Yeah, I think the people you're talking about, like, the people like us that woke up from research and words and were able to, unlock the master key to our minds or whatever it is to see this reality on another level. We are, we're a minority. So I think the people that we're talking about that we think are like us, that like, oh, if we just give them enough information, if we just give them the, the details and the research, and, you can't take down 3 buildings with 2 planes, or, that should curve here. Like, they are beings of the 3D. Like, they're not, they don't let their minds make, like, they will never unlock their minds. Like, that's not how they're built. So like, if you want to change their reality, you have to change the 3D. That's going back to sort of what I was saying, and what Owen Benjamin is saying, is like, you have to build new worlds that they just use, and then in their using, it changes their minds. So like, the one thing, like, that's why I haven't been on Mac's channel much lately, is because I've just completely switched gears to like writing my own cryptocurrency that uses the logic that sort of, when I had my Nirvana experience, like in 2017, when I remember you, that's when I first reached out to you, because I saw you saying the same things I was hearing through that experience about us having a return to Eden. And at that same time, I had developed this trading strategy on how to protect price levels in a market with a new token. And so that, I couldn't find anybody to help me code it. And so now I finally found somebody, a programmer from Hong Kong that I'm working with. And this is going to be my contribution to helping, I don't know, further how you protect crypto, like how, because, so many people that want to get into cryptocurrency, they don't understand the price can go wherever. You see Bitcoin go from 3,000 to 40,000. It can go back to probably 7,000 is probably the lowest it could really go back to. But, anybody that doesn't know what, like, that's not a protective system. Like, you can hop in that, and if you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have the high frequency trading, and you don't have enough to cover that spread to be buying and selling the whole time, you're going to just get burnt. You're not going to like it, and you're going to stick with fiat. And fiat is the main mean of control. So long as that is the center of our lives, then we are eating the apple every day. We are just saying, yes, Satan system, grow, thrive, use my energy to get bigger. And like, if I can help provide a system that like doesn't do that. Like,
awesome. Well, I really hope that works, and we'll definitely want to keep. Who is Mac? I saw. Do you mean as in Mac, as in Canadian Mac?
Yeah, Flat Earth Fogger.
Okay. Oh, okay. And, well, I mean, I love Mac, actually, and he's definitely, like Dave, who hopefully will join us, Zoom Truth, is, one of the loudest people in North America when it comes to some of the truth that we got going on. But, he's a good example of, and that's why I wanted to reach out to David, actually, because, he's like me in that, gee, you want to just shake people by the throat, or by the chest, and go, come on, wake up, and soon, hopefully, enough people will wake up. But I had Andrea on my back saying, they're not listening to you, this is, and then of course with 2020, it was like, wow, there's no reaching people at the moment, so we realized that
with words, there's only a certain amount of us that words and we're able to unlock it. Like, it's going to be a physical, it's going to be a shot that gets them sick or kills a relative. Like, it's going to be like some business owner that gets put out of business. Like, then they'll be like, wait, maybe the government's not my friend. Like, and then they'll start like, you have to have something happen.
Yeah, it's going to take, but I think it's going to take a bit more than that. I feel like what they want to do is put I feel like they want to put us through a kind of world war timeline and scenario. That's what they're doing, a traumatizing thing over a period of years to have a huge and altering effect on society. The smart cities that they're developing, I don't think that they're going away anytime soon. I think this is what they know, and
I
it's
think we're
almost like
in that
it's good to
war.
know that. Pardon me.
I think we're in that world. I don't think this next war is going to look like the old wars. Like I'm of the opinion that we're in it now.
Yeah. And I suggest that, we know that the previous wars were actually the enemies were created by the system, and this time the enemy is created by the system. Previously, it was Germans. This time, it's merely germs. Now, yeah, and it's an invisible enemy, and the enemy
Yeah,
is within. It's actually you. It's
yeah,
and
it's everything.
and all of what this is like it's like the self-hating agenda. How do you get God to hate itself so much that it would walk down the street and say, "Hey, you stop breathing." We were in the play park the other day, and my little boy, he's 3.5, really excited. He goes up to this little girl, she's 5, he wants to have a little bit of banter with her, a little bit of babble. He gets about 5 paces from her. She puts up her hand and says, "Stop, don't come any closer." A
Yeah,
5-year-old girl.
that's crazy because I remember being 5 and thinking adults were insane. So now to like be 5 and just taking the download instantly, being like, no, you can't be near other humans.
I've seen this now. And my little boy, he just wants to go and connect with little humans, because we've given him none of propaganda, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
and so it's hard to explain to him what that interaction was. I think it didn't even compute to him like this girl was actually. I knew what she was doing. She's been taught this on the TV and by her parents, perhaps, but so no, the download is set, and I think that humanity is only going to change itself en masse when it hurts so badly that it has no choice. So I do wonder whether a lot of the people who've been willing to walk this way have been people who have had to take a lot of that hurt already, and are therefore not as affected. As I say to people, if you had to start practicing for a marathon that you were going to run in 2 days' time, that would be a bit of a mistake. If you've been practicing for months and years and preparing the arc, then this isn't so difficult. But I think
right.
the transition has to be from believers to knowers. I think this is it. I think Owen Benjamin is a great example, and he's doing great things. And if only everybody was to get a birthright such that they were able to um, fairly, achieve some land and be able to set up on it. You may know I went out of Portugal last year now, and tried my hand at being off grid. I loved a lot of it, but the truth is, unless you have some money behind you, you can't go out there and set up. You'll be starving, living in the freezing cold, and so on. And actually, if this system hates you as much as it says it does, or it appears to do, then it would like nothing better for you to spend the last 30 or 40 years shivering like the old goat herder lady that lives up the mountain where we were staying, living in a dark house which is cold, doesn't have a toilet in it. This is in Portugal, which is meant to be a first world country. People are
Yeah,
living out there in the country, generations of them, and a lot of them are living as basic and as simple lives as the Africans that we claim to be a third world.
yeah,
So as someone going off grid and trying to make that work, well, we know that it takes a little bit of time, quite a bit of time, a lot of effort, and some
I think it's who you do
financial.
it with. If you gotta join people that have been into it for a long time, that have their systems worked out. They're gonna have some kind of hierarchy developed. You're probably gonna have to come in,
Yeah,
under
but this
their
is this is a, this is another problem for me, my friend, because for me it's like we are not slaves. We are not meant to be somebody else's serf. This is the point. And when
Right, but it's
you
more
go
of
on
like
someone else's land, no, when you go on someone else's land, it's their rules, and you are not the landowner. You do not have the authority to say, hey, I'm going to do this with my land. I'm going to do that. I'm choosing to do this, because a true creator doesn't have a human master dictating to him, whether it be the banker or some generous dude who's let you use his land for a period of time, but after a period of time doesn't want you to do it in that way, or use this piece of land in this way, or he does it in that way, which you know is a kind of a waste of your time. It's like, I mean, a lot of these communities set up and go, well, if you want to come and live in our community, you also have to do this, be this, do this, and do this and do this. That's not God. That's not here. This is your Eden. Go and enjoy
right,
it. That's somebody else's. And every community that I've seen since I've been looking, unfortunately, has to set itself up in that way. There has to be a hierarchy. There has to be, this is the guy who calls the shots, because that's the nature of the world that we live in. But each man should be able to have his own little plot and be able to do his own thing. And if he wants to work 2 hours a day or 10 hours a day, and he wants to have a huge crop or a small crop, well, that should be it. And I think that, that's what I had a nice taste of it actually in Portugal, and I loved the hard work. It really, my body is, and I think any person's body is a whole lot better when it gets to do that kind of physical activity. But I don't think that I've come all of this way to be scraping and absolutely having to break my back simply to get by. You got to realize that this system has taken everything from us. It has denuded the land of its richness. The land should be populated with fruit trees and nuts and all that sort of thing, that a man once upon a time would have just been able to walk down the road and fill his bag with nuts and fruit from the nearby trees, and taken that home and fed his family if he needed to. That's how it once was. And that's all being taken from us. So I think that Owen Benjamin and the likes absolutely go and set it up, and good luck with any kind of community arrangement. But this is the vanguard perhaps of people returning to the land. But in the meantime, we're kind of saying, well, we're just going to let the system slide with having completely poisoned us. I mean, they have fucked humanity over. Yes, we've consented to it. Yes, we've been tricked into giving it away. But this system has absolutely screwed humanity over. So it is my ambition to demonstrate that we can be higher beings, and we should demand our true sovereignty back. It is a complete trick on humanity. It is a complete deception on humanity. So my view is
I
that
think right there's a conundrum in that thinking, because you don't demand it. Like, sovereignty is like a state of mind, I think. And so like I've sort of declared my sovereignty, like, I don't know, about 2 years ago, and then just sort of let, desperate need. I mean, I've seen your streams, and you've been in the same state where your desperate needs will be met, but you're gonna suffer, but you're gonna have your sovereignty. Like, you're gonna live on faith. The money's not gonna be there until it absolutely has to be there. And if you can live that way indefinitely, then maybe you can get better at that sort of sovereignty. And I think that's the only real sovereignty we're guaranteed, is that. And it's not a super comfortable one, like
yeah.
it's pretty uncomfortable. It's pretty rough on the mind. It's pretty rough on, relationships. And, I'm finally out of it. Like, I just started working about a week ago, and I'm like, all right, sovereignty, stated sovereignty is great. I floated through till now, and I've had a lot of free time to work on my own projects. It's great, but it's just too rough. It's too much stress.
Yeah.
And I think that's the test of faith. Like, if you have absolute faith and you act in full faith with every moment of every day, and there's no second of doubt, then you can live in that sovereignty right now. It's that satanic voice inside that's like, I don't know, it's not going to work out this time. That's, you've pulled all your favors, or you're at the end of the line, and then that starts to poison the well of your manifestation or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think that it doesn't matter where you are. This is, I think for me right now, like it does. My message is like it doesn't matter where you are so much as in geography, so much as where you are in your kind of spiritual thing, because it's great that some people can get out and break from the system now and set up on and I was really looking forward to maybe having some time away from everything, and I still do, but it's not necessarily possible, and in truth I don't think necessary if you are to achieve this sort of what is it a spiritual reawakening, or upliftment, whatever it is that's going on, because there's definitely something going on in the electromagnetic. They're absolutely distracting us, as I said earlier on, about hitting the vagus, not the vagus nerve. Well, we've been looking into the vagus nerve and its connection to your well-being and your state of mind and your reliance, your state of fight or flight, which is obviously a low vibration state that we are being held in at the moment. And the vagus nerve actually needs exercise. It needs the things that we're being held away from doing. And this nervous system is being tweaked. And that's because I think we're in a time of potentially personal upliftment. Because what it says in the Bible is that wherever you are, God is with you. God is with you wherever you are. So it doesn't matter what your projects are. You should be working on your projects, whether it be music, writing, farming, whatever your thing is. I think this is that time to say, wow, I've got to take the skills, the talents that I've been given by God, by Creator, and let them fly, because they have been constrained. And now, if we didn't know before that we were in a system of distraction and control, we should know it now, and we should take this opportunity to fly like the birds that we are, or the sovereigns we are. So however that plays out for the individual, I think is their own story and should be, and they should hopefully find their own bliss, their own Eden, their own center, their own balance, without need necessarily for it to be a geographic relocation, but to get out of the system, to get out of this, to get out of the soup and so on. Yes, that's an ambition that I'm sure we all share.
Yeah, and I think that the way I've been dealing with it is just building something that I believe is an alternative. That like that's the only thing I see as an answer. And I almost see everything now as just branding. Like all the truth channels are now, at this point, it feels like branding. It's good to build a brand and to create a brand so that you can use that momentum and focus it. And like Jeff Berwick too is another one that's done this. Like,
yes,
to be able to, now there's down in South Mexico, he's building a community, and it's not the same community that Owen Benjamin is building, but they've been able to use a brand of a YouTube channel or a DLive channel and focus the energy of tens of thousands of people to create a change in the world right now. And that to me seems like the mission of YouTube. Like if I'm going to be on YouTube, it's going to be to build something like that.
Awesome.
But
awesome. Well, I think this is exactly what people need to do, because we don't know where the orchestra is going to crescendo, you see, and the conductor is building things up and building things up. And I think that if we're sitting kind of back going, oh, we don't know what to do, and we're just so pissed off with the government, then we're not going to be playing our musical instrument at its finest note. So this is exactly what I think people should do. My view has been for quite a few years that if the people who are the lights or sort of bringers of knowledge and excellence in certain areas are able to let that flow, let that grow, then at some point then the conductor is going to bring it all together, and it all kind of makes sense, and it'll be like, shit, we've got everything that we need. We just never realized how it was going to come together in the way that it has. So, that's why I'm for, like Martin. I see Martin Leakers in the channel. I'm for all of these things that are like, wow, we didn't know this before. We really need to try and know this as well, But as I said to him the other day when he hung out with me, thanks for the hangout there, Martin. You got to come back again. That's my most watched video in the last long time, perhaps. Anyway, so we need to be doing these things of excellence. But at the same time, the professor of history, will still take guidance from, the professor of theology. Okay, theology is not a good subject. I'm not into theories. So you can keep your professorship of theories, but so no, I think it's great. And at the end of the day, if we have people that are exemplifying a way of agrarianism, of a way of living in a different way, and certainly I love the permaculture kind of thing. If we have been doing this in pockets and places with people who are so appropriate, and farmers have decided to start moving their land into a different kind of use, and we are moving into a different world, and perhaps a lot of the materialism, capitalism, and sort of hold on to large swathes of land may become a thing of the past. But we need to do those things, and but for me, Jason, one of the biggest things that's really like spurred me on recently is the Q business, the Q debacle, because I wasn't weighing in heavily against, and I still won't weigh in against people who followed the Q, but it is a really insightful exercise to look at how Q caught really experienced truth seekers in a belief,
right?
And then you start to kind of really, sorry, I'm not on the camera, but then you start to try and unpick what belief is, and how it is that people that you looked up to in your sort of, wow, this guy's done his work, and now you're going, whoa, why couldn't you see that?
Well, I would say, like, I would, for me, the thing I like that I could never write off the Q movement is because, I mean, you were in the military.
Yeah.
I worked on a military television show interviewing veterans for 5 years, going and shooting with them and hearing their stories. And like, how hard is it for you to believe that there's people in the military that have been given orders by these satanic assholes at the top, and they are just finally had, like, I don't know, work together enough, or enough of them were in enough departments. We know these people exist. Like, I've interviewed enough veterans to know that they don't just toe the line of the military. A lot of them had experiences. You're one of them. You've talked to the experiences that they can't unlive. They got us told a story that they were going into one thing and came out, just trying to hold their minds together, hold their lives together. So the idea that there's some people in the military that are trying to, like, if anybody in government I would trust, it's people that have actually seen and had to do the dirty work for this cabal. And if anybody had any incentive to turn on them and had the ability to do it and had the know-how to do it, I think that's why. It's the plausibility of it. And it is a reality. On some level, there are people in the military right now that do not want it to be what it is, and would, given the choice, change it. Now,
yeah, but we know also that there's lots of doctors who would say that the what do they call it, germ theory, is not valid, and of course it's theory. Plenty who would say that terrain theory is a more applicable use in the course of viruses, maybe not so much in the common cold or something. But I don't want to, without wanting to get into that debate so much as to say that, well, there's plenty of people who've tried to talk out in certain fields, and we know for ourselves that if it's a subject that they don't want out, it won't get out. And we know that our friend Robin Campbell did a series of interviews on Lift in the Lid with some docs. What? I think Dr. Adil, kind of well named. I kind of zoned out after the first month of back in last year, because it was like, this is the old. But anyway, the point is that these docs came back to him and said, please pull that stuff. Our jobs are in jeopardy. We've lost our job. Blah blah blah. Blah. So I think that one of the things that I had to come to realize, as I moved through this, was that Bradley Manning was a psyop, and that Julian Assange is a psyop. These people are not. These people are not. These people are simply giving the average man the idea that there is accountability in the system, and that the media can be trusted to offer us the truth. No, they can't. I did some journalism a few years ago, back 2013, for a free newspaper, and they would give me offer articles to write on, and I can assure you that if they didn't meet, there was South African, called South African News or something, or South African Times, and if they didn't meet the editor's kind of very left wing or whatever, it doesn't matter. There's always someone else deciding whether or not your stuff is going to get written, and how it's going to be presented. So no, I'm afraid that that the system loves to do this to people, Jason. It loves to give people the sense that there's a second coming, that there's a savior just around the corner.
Yeah, but
and I couldn't believe it. Pardon me.
It's us. Like, it's us building new systems.
Then how can you expect it to come from Q? How can you expect it to come from Donald Trump? How can you expect it to come from anything that smells like the system or represents the system? Because the system will continue to give us a series of its own type of people. And when you look into this Camilla Harris character and the people who are on the left of the British politics at the moment, the relationship, the connections between these people are absolutely staggering. I mean, did you know that Gavin Newsom is the nephew or of that
Drew Pelosi.
Of Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
I mean, someone suggested today that Gavin Newsom is on RV. I was watching RV, actually, that Gavin Newsom is that boy, the kid from the O.J. Simpson trial, the one who was in the swimming pool, and we went and had a look at his picture, and it was like, oh my goodness, that is as close as you could possibly expect two people to look and not be the same. Absolutely. And RV was looking at it and going, yeah, well, this is the first I've heard of it, but I'm looking at it now, I'm going, yep, there's something here. So we are being hoaxed on such a grand level by a cabal of interacting interests that there is absolutely no way that anybody of any use to the good of humanity that hasn't been somehow nobbled within the system, hasn't taken the knee, bent the knee, is going to be in anywhere near the levers of power. And even saying that Donald Trump is really just, as far as I'm concerned, a script reader. He doesn't have, the things that come through him and the current dude. It's all the same, and it's the same old game. And look what it did to American people. You heard Trump supporters going, look, the devil's come in, and the devil was voted in by his grandma. Any Democrat, whatever the voting system was, tricked, whatever. It's just. It's just another way of kind of keeping people apart from each other, but certainly they're never going to offer us a true solution. And even in the case of the UK, there's a guy called Brian Rose, London Real, he calls himself. And for me, he's a little bit like the Dollar Vigilante. I like Dollar Vigilante, don't get me wrong. I've listened to a few of his stuff, certainly a few years ago. But, I'm always like, are we sure that we're talking in God's name when we also talk about stock exchange? Did the character known as Jesus not say this is an abomination to God? This is not a natural system where some men can sit on vast sums of money because they're the ones doing the bean counting.
Well, I think it's energy. I don't think an energy can be turned positive or negative. And so the more we are the, self-identified positive ones, and the more that energy flows through us, the more positive change will be affected in the 3D reality. So like to not to so otherwise we're just letting all that energy go to the negative identifier, the people that we're going to just use it to create more negative systems that just suck and drain more resources from more people. Like we need to take that responsibility to figure out those systems because they've gamed it. Whatever we think about this GameStop story, whether it's like a true, David and Goliath, David knocking down the hedge fund of Goliath and figuring out how to game a system and, bankrupt these hedge funds that have been treating the market as a casino for years. And so I don't know. I see the potential. Jeff Berwick is a perfect example. Like he is doing amazing things with his tapping into that energy. So now he has a community that's built. He has a conference that's happening every year. He's been encouraging and spreading cryptocurrency to anybody that has listened over the years has done well.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm still a bit of a troglodyte with it. I'm like that guy who, if you ever came across the pyramid scheme, back in the 90s, where you could like for $400-$500 or whatever, you could buy into like a plane and you'd be at the bottom level, and then you bring two friends in and everybody gets moved up a level, and eventually you're the captain of the plane after 4 tiers or something, and if you're the captain and you got 8 crew right at the bottom, they all bring in their allotted people, you pay out and you do really, really well. And I got into that super late, and I did one round. I got one round, but others, people coined in on that. But you know what? It's still like a it's kind of like a Ponzi scheme, So I'm happy for people who have done well. I heard of Bitcoin early days, and I didn't pay it any attention like most of us did, and sometimes I thought, damn, if only I'd got a few, whatever. But
you're in it if you're doing that.
Yeah, but this is my truth. I know, and obviously, I know more and more people, certainly in the flat Earth, I've heard talking about the Bitcoin and stuff like that. But yeah, I have to admit, I'm still super suspicious because, you see, the internet was given to us by the American military. Hey, DARPANET was the foundation of it, and so for me, just like I think that a lot of computer viruses are allowed by the system, because just like in the medical fraternity, they love sickness because there's a lot of profit to be made and a lot of control to be had out of that. So I think that as much as I know it's all decentralized and super crypted and and all these super keys and stuff like that, I'm just not. If they can pull off what they pulled off in 2020, then I think that anything is possible. So I think my worst case scenario for the people that are in Bitcoin, because obviously the idea to be able to trade and stuff like that. Okay, fine, I get that. But for the people, I'll make this point, and then you can talk. The people that are in Bitcoin, my thinking is that there's been like 1 or 2 really good like growth spurts for Bitcoin, where it went up to 10K, and then it kind of got a little higher and then slipped back, and then now it's at whatever 30K. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 33. Hit 42 last couple.
You can't say 33 apparently in the truth community anymore. 33 is a no number. 33 is a beautiful number. Inverted, and it's an 8. So that's infinity, and we're all that. I'll get into what the 33. I think the 33 means on another time, but I think that they're going to do like they did with CVE, is have 3 kind of inflations, and then have sucked in so many good people with a lot of their good money, and then it crashes out, and then they go, oh
yeah, but you know that, like, that's how you make money. Like, you make money off the crash. You don't make money off of the pump. That's how you sell out in the pump. Mm-hmm. But like, that's the token I'm developing is the algorithm it uses protects you so that people that don't know how to do that, the algorithm does it automatically.
Yeah.
So, but
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I look like, in 10 years' time, I look like a complete troglodyte for saying this. I really do, because it is true. I agree that the world is mostly online now, and it may stay like that for some time to come. There's so much online things. So to be to have an online currency makes absolute sense to me in that context. So I hope I'm wrong, but it's just, when I think about it, I'm not a purist by any stretch of the imagination. But when I think about, what it is that is abominable about this world, is that hidden powers have controlled, um, you know, vast amounts of our energy, and I'd be surprised if they were giving away the keys to the vaults, as it were. But hey,
Yeah,
good luck with that.
I think the key to it is not focusing your energy on that and not being angry and not letting it affect. Like I went
See what I'm
very
saying?
dark
Yeah,
for very black pilled, and it doesn't get you anything but more darkness and more anger and more suicidal. Like it doesn't lead anywhere to just sort of focus on that. It is part of the trick. If you want to say that, this those the cabal wants to drain us of our natural energies. That is one of the ways they do it. Like they
yeah,
want us
yeah,
upset, they want us feeling victimized, they want us staying in that victim mindset. What they don't want us to do is to build systems that completely obsolete theirs, and they will try to minimize and diminish and ignore and shut down and um, make it so that it's as hard as possible for people to use systems that are not theirs. But once I switched my mindset to we have to build it, I have dropped the black pill. I've dropped the despair. I've dropped the victimhood, and I am now just living in build it with blinders on. And every day what I'm working on grows, and it gets. I don't know. It gets a lot easier.
would it be fair to say that the markets generally in the world, not necessarily crypto, but the markets in the world are based on sort of like trust or belief that the weather's going to do this, or the value of that is going to be that, or whatever. So there's an element of belief, would you say?
Well, it's a bet. I mean, you definitely have to take a bet. Nobody knows, what the future holds. So you got to take a position basically, and then
Yeah,
that's where the hedge funds come from, because they'll take multiple positions trying to hedge their bets. Um, and that's how I got into cryptocurrency, was trying to figure out, well, how can you hedge your bets? And that was what I wrote back in 2018, was a cryptocurrency trading bot. But the night that I released it, the FBI took down the website that I wrote it for. You know what I mean? So this
okay.
like the spiritual sort of counter push happened. Like the very night my wife helped me write it, because she used to be a coder, and the next morning she's like, "Ah, it's too late. We'll work on it tomorrow, or I'll run it tomorrow." We woke up and there was an FBI takedown notice on
Wow.
that site,
Wow.
and then but the thing, the algorithm works. It just trades well, and it teaches you. If you don't know how to trade, it just puts your buys low and put your high, and you cover a spread of prices. So for something like Bitcoin, you can cover 10,000 to 40,000 with $1,000, and then just let $50 trades happen, and then they start to multiply compound as there's a fluctuation between the price. So if it goes from 30 to 33, you're buying at 30,000, you're selling at 33, you're setting up for a rebuy at 30. So as
Wow.
the volatility goes up and down, you're just stacking uh,
Wow.
at each
Wow.
price.
That's pretty clever. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, is it through your channel? Is that how it
Yeah,
works?
it's called soliddefi.com is the,
Mhm.
I'll put it over here. That
Drop
we're
a
in the
link
testnet right now.
if you can. You're welcome to drop a link in that. I mean, obviously, I don't offer any kind of financial advice, and I've made my thoughts clear on that. But yeah, I mean, to those who make themselves a coin and can break out of the system or do something with it, fantastic. Um, will it be perhaps a time when it's the only way of trading? Maybe. But I think by that time, the banks certainly will have gone official with their own crypto. And I've suggested before that I wonder whether, like what they did with the music industry, they preloaded people's interest with Napster. Napster was able to give away all of that free content for about 3 or 4 years, and then the lawsuits shut it all down. But by then, people were so used to streaming, they'd gone and bought themselves bigger computers so they could stream stuff in and stuff like that. So they'd created like a market. It's like the dealer going around town and spreading a little bit of heroin around, cocaine around, or whatever, and getting people interested. So that was my one sort of one of my reservations. And of course, as I say, I think that we live in a world in which we've been duped so many times that if this was a dude turning up with a lump of metal and saying, "Here you go, this is yours," I'd be a little bit more, as long as I could test the metal.
Well, there's no reason not to do that as well. I mean, I think that's the mindset, is we have to break out of this like monopoly money mindset of like one thing can be money. No, it's like everything has value. You can trade. So, you can trade silver, you can trade gold, you can trade cryptocurrency. If you want to do things across the plane, then do it with crypto. You feel better than sending a bunch of gold or silver across the plane. And if you want to do it locally, do it with gold and silver, or do it with milk and eggs, and like whatever you want. Just break free of the fiat money, man. Like, because Mac would always criticize cryptocurrency, and I'm like, dude, you use fiat currency for everything. Our lives are completely dependent on everything you're afraid cryptocurrency is.
Yes, and actually, the dollar is one of those that they say is at risk of popping and all of a sudden being worth a whole lot less than we currently believe it to be worth.
It's already happening. Like, it's happened. Like, prices are, I'm in California, and prices just keep going up. Like, just weird things, like just going to the store, buying a pack of 4 batteries. It's like $8 an hour. It's like, yeah, okay, that's $8 for 4 batteries.
Wow.
But no, it's happening in real time. Like, you don't want to be in the dollar. Oh yeah, plain Permaculture's here. I keep meaning to say that.
Plain Permaculture's here. I don't know if he's wants to unmute his mic.
Hey,
you're in now.
Hello. Hey! Can you hear me?
Thank you so much for I'm just working on my layouts here, but lovely to have you. Thank you so much for hanging by.
I was just letting y'all talk.
Cool.
Hey, Plain, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much. It's a good day.
Tell us about it. Give yourself a little introduction to the folks in there. We got about 60 folks listening in at the moment.
Well, my name's Scott, and I have the channel Plain Permaculture on YouTube, and it's all about where we are, who we are, what we could be doing, how I think we should be living, and our potential and restoring that. And I heard you talk about a lot of stuff, but one of the things I think people like us in the truth community or the awake and aware community, one of the hangups I think people are having, and perhaps it's from people that have recently woken up, is that when you wake up mentally or connect to your spirit or stuff of that nature, generally you don't have to physically do anything. But when you're trying to break away from the physical prison a lot of us find ourselves in, you have to actually start physically doing stuff, which is what Jason was talking about. You have to start physically building stuff in the 3D world. And actually, to me, it's easier to encourage people to get to where we physically should be and connecting to the natural versus waking up spiritually, because putting yourself in the position of living naturally is actually a better setting to wake up spiritually. And I actually think everybody is connected to their spirit automatically, and that you can't actually disconnect. I don't know if it's actually possible to disconnect, but what people are seeing right now is the connection decreased or very thin. And what I think we've all been through, or most of us, is some form of trauma-based mind control, or now with screens, virtual trauma-based mind control. And what happens when you go through that is that you retreat to your happy place or to your spirit. And what it does is it leaves your body void, and essentially they program your body, and then you're running these programs on autopilot. So you're not actually seeing NPCs. What you're seeing is various levels of unconsciousness, where that consciousness has retreated to their spirit, because I think on some level everybody knows that like living the average city life and living unnaturally is not how we should be, and it's on some level it's very traumatic, and so people are retreating to their happy place essentially, and then they're just running these programs.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the old world, like, because I go to Prague a lot and I love like the city, but I think the old world used to be like everybody was on their farms, and then like you'd have a place in the city as well, and then you would like go to be in the city to be social and see the arts or participate in more broader markets, and then you'd stay there for a night or two, and then you go back to your farm life. So you wouldn't be just having this isolated city existence, disconnected from the land, like going like years without touching soil to your feet.
Absolutely. I think it's that. I think we need to return to nature and natural ways. There's no doubt about that. But guys, my interestingly, my experience of going out into the land, and I think Owen Benjamin may, or you guys might have a similar thing where that a lot of the people who, even though they live with the land, they are living under they are equally living under this control grid that denies us access to our creator essence. So the children are not necessarily growing up knowing any more about their spiritual truth, because, I mean, having spent time as a kid in remote South African farming communities for a little while, I found these people are often very religious. And I have to wonder where that religion comes from, and therefore under whose control or aegis they currently live. So yeah, going back to the land is one thing, but going back to the land as broken people, not understanding the truth of who and what we are, I think so. So for me, it's like a two-part thing. It's a yin and yang thing. It's and when it comes to the physical, if I can say that, Scott, is I think there is something physical, but it's like the temple of God is in you, and so whilst we should be eating fruit that we've kind of grown ourselves and we're close to the fruit, the land and everything, we have to move closer to God. We have to become closer to God, and we can't do that until we have healed both mind and body. And the body is healed by, I think, living in the land and doing physical work. But if you can't do that, I'm saying we should be, now we're coming into spring, we should be thinking about doing our stretching, exercising, maybe some kind of cleansing, fasting or that kind of thing to prepare the body, just like the land is being prepared for the new spring to come. So yeah, I think, that was, I guess I was just reminded, having gone, because my experience as a child, seeing these very conservative, very religious towns of people who are, all old school, but are, as far as I'm concerned, as spiritually lost and in the wilderness as are the people in the city. So there's no like, well, you can do one and not the other. You can do all the spiritual work and not do the physical work. It needs to be both. And your body is like the earth. It needs physical work. The earth needs to be worked physically, but also the mind needs to be, you may not have heard me say this at the beginning, Scott, but, like we're looking into how the nervous system is being played with in order to fracture us and hold us in a state of fight or flight. And that state of flight or flight has been created through the mind control program. And because of that, until you realize, until you see that, until you attend it, I believe it's still there and it's doing the work that it was always intended to do.
I think you have to be able to recognize that fight or flight. And if you're living in that, you have to like make that priority number one. Is like, how do I get out of this state of fight or flight so that you can act on a longer term, plan.
Yeah. Because you know what? I mean, it's no good taking well, it's not no good, but we've only achieved half of if we've only achieved half of the objective if we take a previously caged zoo animal and return it to the wild without helping it to understand exactly what it is.
But I think that's the
Um,
significant, like you said, like you're not going to go find this perfect community that you're going to step right into day one and just be, be put on a throne or given your own land necessarily and have like that's how it should be. That's not what you're going to find. And you've been doing this, like you've been going to these different farmers and villages, and you're going to learn from each of those different places, how they, grow kale, or how they like when they plant their harvest, or then when they plant in the spring, and all these
yeah.
things that you pick up so that it's you can get your own land and then start using what you've learned. And I know it's harder in the UK to do that because out here we just take for granted that you can get land for you know
Oh,
pretty
it's so hard around here, mate. It's just, I mean, Portugal is quite cheap, relatively speaking. It's super cheap by comparison to here, but it's honestly, you've got to have a few £100,000 as a minimum to set up, and there are people who have that, but most people in this world and this time will probably be a farmhand for the rest of their life before they can afford to have their own land, and that's an unfortunate state of affairs, really. And I think if humanity is to get anything of an upgrade, then maybe a return of these or move towards a return of these God-given.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna, it's breaking. So like I keep returning to Owen Benjamin because he's doing the best. So like he is building a community and he's making it so people can just come and live in that community. So, he's building the bear cabins so that people that are in the chat can actually come out and he can meet them and he can help them slowly grow into that community if they don't have the resources right now, but they do want to participate in Bertaria. So I think that's the model. Like the more of us doing that, Jeff Berwick has a much looser idea, and it's more about him just highlighting a place in the, in southern Mexico that now people have gravitated towards, and now they're like-minded and wanting to live outside of the system and going to start building their own systems and, creating local commerce between each other to make it so they can afford to live. And, that's it. Like if we're looking for answers outside of that, we're not going to find them. That is it. As far as maybe I'm wrong, but that's
Well,
how I see it.
I'm hopeful that the world is, there's going to be something other than just heartache coming from whatever we're going through right now. That there's
Well,
opportunities.
the world theater is going to just provide more and more heartache. So if we're still tuned into that and have some kind of bets placed on that theater show, like we're gonna be put through a heartache. That's just what it's designed to do. The Luch collection or the energy harvesting or just the ability to distract the sovereign from them rediscovering their ability to self-manifest. And it's there as like some kind of default. I see it as like a Westworld reality. Like
Yeah.
we're in some kind of Westworld like experience, and that theater show is there if you don't have your own adventure. If you need to be entertained and you can't figure out how to entertain yourself, then there's that theater show for you to always distract you and engage you. But I
Yeah.
think it's really about just taking your own energy. You think about light, a 5-watt bulb versus a 5-watt laser. Like, I think that's what we're here to do is concentrate our energy, be the 5-watt laser instead of the 5-watt bulb. That's like, the
Yeah.
5-watt bulb is watching television and invested
Yeah.
in, the mass media. And the
Yeah.
5-watt laser doesn't even know what's on television because they're just building their own world and concentrating their energy. So every bit of their own energy is just going into refocusing their world.
And by that example, others will, and as you're saying with Owen Benjamin's example, others are growing from that, learning from that, and and I think that in time maybe that's the only way that the system becomes defunct is when people are no longer no longer using it or no longer
Yeah, because the model of the matrix is that we are batteries of the matrix. So we are literally providing the energy to the, like, we are the, the meter maids, and we are the tax collectors, and we are the politician, the low level politicians. Like, we are the Target customer, we are the Walmart customer. Like, we feed this thing, and it's, I don't know, to me it's so obvious, but it's been so obvious for so long. I'm just tired now, and I don't care. I get that there's going to be a majority of the world that just doesn't get that, and I get frustrated because even in the truth community, they don't get it. Like, if we're using dollars, we are feeding, like, that's all they care, really. As long as we're using their money, then they're happy. Like, that is their system of control, is money. If we're dependent on it, if we're looking for it,
buying their insurance.
Yeah, buying their insurance. If we need it to get through the month, like, what causes us to like sweat soul energy is that need for that cash to get through the month to pay our bills. Like, that's it. That's their game. And so long as we're plugged into that game, they're getting what they need from us. So the idea is, how can we unplug from that? When I talk to the Jehovah's Witness friend of mine, and they're sort of just waiting for for a second coming of Jesus, and I like the model that we are the second coming of Jesus, his perspective is that we don't have the tools, that humans in community can't build what needs to be built here. Like, we must just suffer the vision of this collapsing, reinvention of Rome, and that we can't do anything about it. And I just think that's like, why would we not try? Like, we're here. Like, why would we just, because otherwise you just plug into the Rome system. You just plug into the Babylonian system, and you take your role, and you just live your life as a battery for that system. And, maybe you're a cop, and you're arresting and beating people, or just ticketing them, whatever. Like, but you're reinforcing and creating the system. Like, we're in a game of like make-believe together. We're just taking it real serious right now, and we're letting the game be set by these insane monsters that are probably not even real. Like, they're probably Westworld style like creations to like punish us for not being more proactive. It's like, you're not supposed to depend on this part of the game. Like, you're supposed to build your own game and work together, and create your own little Minecraft reality together.
Love it.
And we that's it. Like, but we don't want that, because, like Plain Permaculture is saying, it's like, the physical labor, we're disconnected from growing, we're disconnected from building, and it's work, and we're not 12 years old with a father teaching us how to do all this stuff. We're, most of the truthers are above 35, and it's like the second half of their life, and now they're starting from scratch. But it doesn't take that long if you're around people that know how to do these things. Like, you're gonna have to suffer some personality conflict in these communities to learn the skills. Or, like me, you can be stubborn and just do everything on your own. And like, so I've like put the solar panels on, I've like poured the concrete for our solar patio, and like had to dig up, get a jackhammer and dig up all the concrete because I poured it wrong, and then re-pour it, and then like have the solar panels like burn out my inverter because I did something wrong there. Like, yeah, I could be less stubborn and take on a role with someone that knows what they're doing, and have to put up with their personality to like get the information I need from them. And that's not always the case. Sometimes people are simpatico, and it's fun to be around them, and they just teach you what there is to learn. But that's why my handle is Renaissance Now, is because I want to learn as much as I can right now about everything that can be learned. And it's going to be growing food. We've planted 20 fruit trees in our, we only have like 10,000 square feet at our house or something like that. I don't know what that is in square meters. But it's a front yard and a backyard, and we have 20 fruit trees now. And our Meyer lemon trees are already producing. We have grapefruit trees producing in the backyard. We have 3 avocado trees. They're not going to produce for a while, but it's slowly, the fig trees are coming in. We have olives coming in. So we just started this year, so it's going to compound over time, and we're going to keep adding things. Our neighbors just got chickens, and we're not even in a neighborhood where anybody would have chickens. Like, we're in a very like big box store reality out here, which I sort of suffer with that. And but our life is sort of anchored here for now, and we're going to make the best of it as we can. And
awesome.
learn the
How are you
space.
guys finding it out there playing permaculture?
How are we finding it?
Yeah, well, I guess you're largely unaffected because you guys have been set up for a few years now. Eh?
Yeah, I mean, we're just continuing to develop and add more stuff and build if we need to, grow if we need to.
And what's your experience of going into town now over the last, say, 12 months? How's things changed for you?
You know what? I generally don't do that. Like, typically, I'm not the one to do that, and the person who does, it's really not that bad. We're in a small town. They don't use a mask, and actually, just the other day was just one customer bothering them, and that's the first time.
Hmm.
And I don't know if they were empowered because of the political stuff or whatever.
Well,
But
that's part of my idea is that all these California companies are moving to Texas to turn Texas uh, liberal,
oh, it's an invasion,
right?
seriously. And there's so much
An invasion.
programming about Texas uh, becoming its own republic and this and that, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it
Yeah,
seems like they're steering something.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm not sure exactly what their plan is, but I think they have to kind of, like, a lot of it's perception. I think they need to squash the perception of independence and self-reliance and all that stuff. But
yeah,
because
and
generally people in Texas are pretty independent, or
yeah,
outside the cities.
But isn't it in a way, like isn't it in a way what we were talking about earlier on, where it's a constant creation of a disturbance, or as the philosopher Mencken used to say, a never-ending series of hobgoblins with which to frighten the populace. And this is what government is always doing: is creating disturbances, whether it be in Africa. Never would have thought it would be in like America, but like they've done that in America, where they've created disturbances and it's upset people's lives. It's got people all in a bit of a tiz. Whether it brings, I mean, the political theater there has brought people, to dislike their neighbor. And where is it they're taking people, and more importantly, why is it that people are continuing to believe cycle after cycle that this system is legitimate? Guys, I'm of the view that every border, every nation name is simply a tool of control and a part of the mind control program of stroking the ego to create this sense of this is my land and not yours. And so for me, like, again, obviously all of these
yeah.
projects
But
and
Dave, like we're not like people are not perfect. You need perfect people to like have shared realities. Like I've lived in an eco village, and I went from this ideal of me like building a food co-op and a fermentation guild so everybody could participate in like learning to brew beer, and we would pool our resources, and then together we could buy the fermentation equipment we needed that we couldn't buy individually. So it gave us access to like grow a small business. And, I'm with all these like-minded people trying to live off grid and grow their own food. And then within a year, I'm being sued there's like a cabal of them trying to sue me that like helped me get set up. Like you
wow,
got to have
wow.
walls,
This is well, wow, and but this is the problem, is that humans are we've lost so much of our essence, and this is not to point fingers and say, oh, how bad are we? I said earlier on, we get a needle in the foot when we're moments out of our mother's womb. This is a huge trauma to the lower part of the body, the lower chakra. And I think that we are fractured at that moment, such that we are always on the back foot when it comes to these sorts of things. We are always that dog that's going to be like never that safe around children because he was damaged when he was small. And I think that humanity will continue on this track. It's continuing to stab newborn babies in the foot. And do try and get everybody in their left arm while they're at it now. And to do this kind of damage, it'll continue to do that until
Yeah, but
people
have
realize that this is
have
a
you seen Men in
deception.
Black, Dave? Have you seen that movie Men in Black?
Yes, yes,
You know the scene where
yes,
they've got like the five, he's like with the four trainees and they're like going through all the tests,
yes.
and then at the end of it, the guy that didn't follow the rules, Will Smith's character, gets passed and all the other ones get flushed back into the system.
Hmm.
Like, I kind of see that's basically what we're in. Like, if we wake up in this reality, like we're going to be graduated from this, and then like the folks that are sort of zombie like are going to be flushed back into it to be reincarnated into whatever,
Mm.
endlessly live in this thing until they wake up and want out of it enough that the
Yeah,
reality meets them.
yeah. And I have to say, I think, obviously people have to kind of go through all of this journey themselves, and maybe it is only through a certain reaching of a low point for the human consciousness that the journey back upwards begins, and maybe one day it'll be, those people who started growing, stuff in their garden, as Love in the Mist was saying, her grandmother used to sell honey during the Depression. And obviously back in the day, everybody had their little lot where they were growing their own stuff. And we've been hearing recently that grass became a very middle class thing. Where people are like, well, we don't need to grow in our own veg patch. We'll just have grass and buy our
Right.
veggies down at out the shop. And that was a change. And of course, then we're going through another change where people are not even going to know what the plant originally looked like. It'll just come in a box of prepackaged food. Um, so eventually it'll be all ordered online. This is, I know, the kind of grim possibility, or this dystopian possibility that seems to be just around the corner for the human thing. But it's not just this year that made that happen. Hey, we have been on this trajectory for a very, very long time. And they have been pulling these deceptions on us for a very, very long time. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And I think it's how fast we're in competition for who's going to grow their system faster, and they have a big head start, but theirs is not based on truth. So theirs is vulnerable to any systems based on truth. And so as we build and grow systems based on truth, theirs are going to be the inferior systems. And so on a long enough timeline, they die out, but they're going to use all of their subterfuge and trickery to make sure that people stay engaged in their systems for as long as possible. But the
well,
inevitable,
yeah, I love it. I love it, Jason. I will just say to close the point for this part of the conversation is that, I think that that is right, but I am more and more convinced that we are in a dualistic system, and so it's always like things have to be in balance. So there's the tending to the earth, and the self and the root and that kind of thing, and then there's tending to the sky, to the heavens, to the Christ within, or the connection to that, the honest, the direct connection to God, if you like, that I think that belief is robbing people of still. And if I was setting something up, it would be like, it's these two things. They don't have to be right. You start on the land, there's almost nothing on it. It takes years to kind of get it right, but you recognize that land is barren or denuded, and you need to do certain things to repair it. But I think that most of us, and this is why I reference Q, and in the case of someone like Owen Benjamin, who is very much connected to a single belief system, I say they wouldn't have given us these belief systems if they weren't damaging. And so no matter how great your farm is, if you haven't attended to your belief systems, then the thief is still in the house. Belief is the thief that belies the lie within all belief. And this is where I think I have to kind of start speaking a little differently from most of my colleagues, my contemporaries in the the little community that I'm a part of, is that we've been very focused on the left brain, sort that shit out, get the house in order kind of stuff. But it's like the lower house, because it's the lower house that we're most well kind of versed in. But there's this upper house as well that I think um, is not in balance. And the point is, I have to say, is that look at the Q people. They were, a lot of them, experienced truthers who were selling Cube and believing it and putting their reputation on it, and no foul, but they were caught in a belief. They were caught up in a belief, and it damaged it damaged their credibility, but it must show a certain, call it Stockholm syndrome or whatever, a certain connection to something higher than them that's here in the man's world, that the man has created. And the reason why man has created these things to mess with our minds is because it robs us of the connection we should have with the Most High, in my view. They wouldn't do it for any other reason. And if you're a person of a particular belief or religion, you know that in your heart, when you go to bed at night, you go, but the people in the other religion are making some mistakes. So don't let ego get in the way of saying, well, why in this system, in this time of knowing, should I be holding on to a belief that has been given to me by men of absolutely uncertain origin or credentials when it comes to who writes these books, who authors them, who pushes them out, who prints them, who pushes them out, who gets their acolytes to kind of shove them down the throats of children. These are all beliefs, and I think that they are there. They are there to rob us of God. They are there to damage God's creation, i.e., us. And if we think we can simply plant some trees and we're going to have unpicked the trauma or the block that was put in place, then we're only halfway there, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think of that same thing about when I was talking to the Jehovah's Witness friend about, he's carrying this story that's been handed through the authorities through time and taking it as the word of God. And I was like, what could have been perverted about that story? And I kept keeping this idea that we have this father creator figure that's being pushed on us. I'm like, they have this Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I think Santos Bonacci says I can't remember who it says, but this Holy Spirit is the mother. Like, it's the Father, the Mother, and the Son, or the Holy Trinity.
Yes.
And the great thing about working in the yard is you see the trees growing and you see how the natural abundance is meant to be here. And so I think nature is where we can get some kind of truth of the creation that we're in. And so I was thinking about our reality and what we are. And I was like, we are the Father living inside the mother, because we are the seed. Like, literally, that's what happened. There was like 1 out of a billion seeds of the Father made it to the egg of the mother, and then this story started. So we are the Father living inside of the mother, and the matrix is the womb. So the matrix is the mother. And like, I'm starting to think that reality is like that I'm this immovable point of energy, and that what's flowing over me is I'm being pushed by the Father through the mother's world. And that is what I'm
well, I like that, but I'm going to do a series of a presentation in the next week or so. Hopefully, I'll put it all together as like something neatly packaged to get people to think about, using the Tesla's 369, using the torus models that we've been looking at, Jason. That I would like to add something, hopefully, that elucidates your thinking and those people that are listening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. You get the mother in nature. You get the mother, the father, and the child.
Yep.
You get in the nutsack. You get the 2 nuts, and you get the ball bag. So the nut bag. You get Isis. Isis, Ra, and El. You get
Israel.
There's always there's always the Trinity, or the 3, and the primary structure that you need to create anything is a triangle, 3-sided angle. That's the first structure that you can build. So in the numbering system, you start with 0, you go to 1, and then from there it's okay. Then it's up to 2. So I that's not what I wanted to take it. I want to take it where in nature you have the hot and cold, and then you have neutral. Like in an electrical system, you have positive and negative, and you have the neutral. On Earth, we have like a a hot, hard surface and a cold, soft, silky atmosphere. So using I'm not presenting this in the best possible way because I hadn't quite got my thoughts around offering this to people. But the best way that I like to characterize it now in my mind is that there is a trinity of energies. There's electromagnetism, which is two energy sources. You've got electricity and you've got magnetism. And in both electricity and magnetism, you have both positive and negative, masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
So if you look at some science, I can try and show it to you quickly. Let me see if I can pull this up and share it to you. But the primer fields is fascinating. Have you had a chance to look at that?
No, what is it? The primer fields?
Primer fields. Now, I'll just show you some images here because I don't quite know how. Let me just open this up. Just bear with me a moment, please, friends. I'm obviously quite new at this. I need to show a entire screen, I think, and does that hasn't shown up? Has that shown up for you yet? Let me just try the Chrome tab.
Yeah. Where would it be? Okay.
You can see that?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is a really fascinating article by a guy called Ken LeBrun on revolutiongreen.com, revolution-green.com. Now, go and look at this research for yourself. He's looking at a guy called David Lapointe's research, where he creates. Can you see my pointer?
Not yet.
No. Okay. He creates, what he does is with using these two magnetic cups. Let me see if I can. Are you still seeing my screen? Yeah. And are you seeing this page now?
I still see the primer fields.
Okay. Has it? All right. Let me just, maybe I have to change the screen. Sorry for the interruption in service. I'll just stop that and then share screen, Chrome tab. Okay. So you can see, can you see the page now?
I see the primer fields. Is it? Oh, I can see your pointer now.
Okay. So here is a primer field, an example of the primer fields, just as a graphic. You can see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so in the middle, you've got this red magnet and blue magnet, and then around these arrays are obviously what we would consider to be the globe, but really the universe would be, if you're looking in the macrocosm, this applies to you in your human body. Those red look like your arms and your legs.
Yeah.
Your genitalia is obviously, there is a torus field coming out of your lower part, and we spell it CLI, torus. And out of your head, you've got the crown or corona, which is often, you can see it as the whirl of the hair on your head. Men will be aware that they often collect fluff in their belly button. I would posit that this is because of the electromagnetic torus that is occurring. But if we just stay with the macrocosm, if you take the universe or the known world to be a giant system of magnets and an induced electricity, because what happens in, I'll just change this back to the David LaPlante stuff. Let's just have a quick look at some images here. Are you still seeing my images?
No, it's still on that torus field.
Oh, okay. This one, okay. Sorry. So what he does basically is, in a chamber, he creates a near vacuum and then fires electricity into this with a gas, and that gas creates plasma. There's no energy. There's no energy. There's no moving parts. But it's simply the combination of the electricity, the magnetism, and this gas, which I would contend
Like
is
a
our
neon
ether.
sign?
Pardon me?
Like a neon sign?
No, because a neon sign is yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that, but a neon sign is requiring. I think this. I think it's worth going to look at this research yourself. But it's really like they're not. What he's saying is I'm creating zero. This is free energy. Is that I bring the magnets together. They have to be this kind of cone shape, and to make them work. And then with a little bit of electricity, and then in this, they can use different gases, and they do get different light effects from it. But what all of a sudden happens is you start getting these massive ejectors coming out, a little bit like when we used to believe in space, and we thought that there were these like neutron stars firing off pulsars. Well, I think that in the sky there are smaller electromagnetic experiences or occurrences which are causing the light show that we see in some of the light show that we see in the ether. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm contending that there are three primary parts to the ether. To the universe. There is an electromagnetism.
Yeah.
So those are the two parts, electro and magnetism, and then an ether, which is, I think, the if you like to think of there being a mother or a creator egg in the cosmic egg theory, then the ether is that. And then the combination of these three is creating a pressure wave in the center, which we recognize as Earth. So this is, I know it's pretty, let me see if I can get back some more images, primer fields to reference this. Why is that not doing that for me? Can you still see my pointer?
I don't think so. I think it's still showing the plasma astrophysics number 5.
Okay. Well, let me just stop sharing the screen right now. And that's pretty hectic, like trying to do all of that. I've watched people do that, and it's seems to flow a lot easier for them. But I guess I'll learn how to do that. That's the first time I've kind of managed to make that work. Thanks for that, Scott. And that is I will try and show you some more of this, because I think it's absolutely fascinating. I've been looking into this for about 3 years, and for me it answers a lot more questions than the atomic material theories that we mostly kind of have. So I wanted to offer that, because when you see it like that, and I've got a depiction that I can't show you now because I gave it to my son and asked him if he would try and draw it for me on Photoshop. But when you see those shapes, and I start to like fill out the area that would be the Earth and would be the surrounding kind of area, as if I color that all in green, and I've got red and blue to indicate the hot and the cold areas. When you see it like that, you can see how the Earth or ourselves and our entire creation could be a trinity of these three forces: the etheric force, leave that one a little bit up in the air, and the electric force, and the more foundational magnetic force. Now, for me, the word magnetic sounds like Ma, and it is. When I say that, I don't want to start suggesting. I think this is a New Age trick to start suggesting that Gaia is the mother, is where we all come from, because I think that's just an inversion of the lie that it's all man and we all come from kind of some Adam. I think that when you look at the electromagnetic system and realize that, hold on, both electric is negative and positive, and magnetic is both negative and positive. Therefore, magnetic is both hot and cold, male and female. Equally, electric is both hot and cold, because I'm trying to work out, well, is it the man that's the Earth, but the Earth, because the Earth is immobile, it's solid and strong and so on. But the woman is also absolutely, the trees grow out of her. But in the same way as the tree needs both male and female, I think The earth needs that. The electricity needs negative and positive. Otherwise, it can't function right. And so when negative and positive are out of balance, then yes, your systems are going to malfunction. And I think that if we are an electrical system and you know that, then you can cause short circuits through putting a needle in my foot when I'm brand new born. You can do things to my the magnetic elements of me so that I'm attracted to or repulsed by the wrong things. So this is how I think it starts to kind of, for me, come together as it's a trinity system in the foundational thing. And then what is the fourth state of matter, or the fourth is plasma. So what happens is you've got to bring, because typically they say earth, wind, and fire, and water,
Air.
air, yeah, and yeah, wind and air, but I'm like, well, actually, fire only comes from the pressure created by something, material, or a spark is created through friction. A gas perhaps is ignited.
Four states of matter, right? It's the solid, the liquid, the gas, and the plasma.
Yeah, but the matter only comes post the plasma. So I think it comes down from plasma. So you've got a creation of, because the matter is, like everything can be in four states. Like water is obviously in four states, but I think that's what our ether actually is. This is what I'm starting to wonder. I'm saying things that I've never heard anyone say. So I'm offering you things that you may not have heard before, and and I've obviously worked through all of the stuff that we all got given in terms of, hey guys, you've been lied to, and here's a bunch of new information for you to research. And I did, and I took a lot of that on board. But now I'm starting to say, well, actually, if you look at the electromagnets, these guys, by the way, David Lapointe, the guy who did, go and look at his videos. There's 3 in the series, and they're about 8 years old, I think. Maybe not that old, but he never finished the series, actually, and he sold some of his technology, and he can't really talk about it anymore. And also, of course, they're very much mainstream thinkers. So if you try and present them with the idea that, hey, have you thought about this as our universal model, that actually the whole thing might be a giant set of toruses, or a giant torus within a competing electromagnetic framework within an egg, or whatever that is, this ether that we then see as air or water or ice on the extremities. This is different thinking to anything that I've heard before. But I really think that it makes more sense to me that when you look at David Lapointe's work, that actually, yes, aside from him putting it in a bell jar, and I can't explain outside of the universe, I don't know what's out there or how it's contained or whatever. I don't know that. But he has to use a container to create this environment. But he brings these two magnets together, powerful magnets, a little bit of electrical input within this gaseous environment, and boom, life. You create light. You create this extra energy, and it's over unity. Is what they call it. We're creating energy with no moving parts, and at a fraction of what it takes to create it. But I think that
because the parts are moving, it's just you can't see them, so we don't think they're moving. So if you can have two fields colliding, think about it, walking in on a conversation, two people arguing with each other, and you're like, hey, you're gonna get a whole lot of more energy because their energies are colliding, and then you bring your energy, and then you're gonna get huge amount of energy off of that, versus two people that are just sitting on a park bench, and you're like, hey, and then they'd be like, hey, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you position the magnets so that they're locked into this counterforce against themselves, and then you start adding energy to that, it's gonna have a force field bounce back reflection of magnified energy, I think, if you try to add more energy, because it's we're already dealing with all the competing energies here we can deal with. So
yeah, well, when you go and look at them, you'll see how all toruses, all tornadoes, all of these things can be formed out of this. But in the case of this example, I don't disagree. But in the case of this example, what he does is he uses filament wires to hold those magnets, suspend those magnets in space, as it were. So they're not actually moving, but he has done other experiments where he will put non-magnetic iron balls into the space between the two magnets, and they will form up on a little plastic plate, but they will form up in these geodesic or these perfect flower of life shapes. As he adds one, then they reorganize themselves and they get themselves into a perfect alignment, and they do begin to take up a spin. They do begin to take up a rotational movement, these balls. So this is where you can start to see Coriolis, the possibility of how Coriolis can be explained, so that there is a turning to this system. Do the magnets, do the forces of magnetism? Because remember, what we're talking about in the David Lapointe experiments here are physical magnets, whereas in the universe everything is wave, everything is not in form. It's not in the form that we recognize it there. So I don't know how those elements are held in place. But I'm starting to hypothesize on that. And as I say, I want to do a presentation on it with a little bit more kind of, it's easier to do it when you're not talking to 75 people. Wow, thanks for stopping by. But Andrew and I want to put it together because we realize that actually so much of what has been done to the body has been done with the foreknowledge of this, that we are electromagnets.
Yeah.
And that at the center of the electromagnet is an earth anagram heart. And that electromagnet, that green thing, has been submerged in red because, we live in a world, as I said earlier on, shattered. Oh, hello. Hello.
Andrea!
Jason saw you before I did. But we live in a world shattered by we think by that, and it's not to kind of say, oh, woe is us, it's more to say, hey, gosh, we know this now. How do we help ourselves going forward? In the case of Alexander, he didn't get that stab in the foot. I stopped him from doing that, but I just didn't want them to hurt him. That was my thinking at the time, but now I think.
Yeah, I only just did a little bit of research on the prick test today. I mean, obviously we knew we didn't want to do it, just with conscious knowledge that it wasn't right, but actually that when I looked at it, it was only brought in 1962, and actually then a pharmaceutical company got involved and they developed a test that they could use for it. So it all starts to sound a little bit fishy when you start. So we just started doing the research on the prick test, and it's put in the part of the foot which connects to the sciatic nerve, which obviously is the one that runs up your legs. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, very
we're in the
interesting.
midst of research and that. The reason I'm interrupting is I was listening to Dave downstairs and he was talking about the electromagnetic and the pulse and the wave, and I wanted to remind him of an experience he had the other day walking down the street.
Oh wow.
And he walked past a young lady. Yes, she was attractive, but because because at the moment we're having to kind of walk, people are kind of avoiding each other.
Yeah. 6 feet.
And, they're going out of their way because we're now, harmful or toxic or the unclean. He in this particular case walked closer to her. You explain what
young lady was walking with her boyfriend, and there was 3 of us on the sidewalk and the 2 of them coming, and I try not to make too much allowance for people's fears, so I tend to walk down the sidewalk like I always did, and I'll give people a little bit of space as necessary on the sidewalk, but I don't go out of my way to do anything like that. And on this occasion, the 2 of them came towards us such that we had to kind of turn to go past each other, and my chest and hers and our eyes were like 6 inches apart, like this. And it was the closest probably I've been to a stranger in quite a long time. But the point is that there was in my chest an instant like feeling of, I felt an energy there.
Yeah.
And we've been suggesting for some time that we are these apples, these electromagnetic torus systems, and obviously the closer you are, the closer to me you get, the closer into my systems you get. But even out here, you're already within my aura. We think that about Alexander sleeping with us at night. And so I think that one of the things they're denying us is this electromagnetic contact with our loved ones, with strangers, that is so vital to, I hate the term, but herd immunity, to herd wellness.
Well, possibly even more. I mean, if you look at astrology, that currently we're going through some extraordinary astrology, and that perhaps we're going through a period of time where they prefer us not to actually be sharing that energy with each other, which is why they've
good energy, good loving energy.
Yeah,
and in fact, it's mostly just fear energy when you go out there.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm glad you guys have such positive relationships. I had to like self-isolate over the last 3 years because I was picking up such negative energy from people that are supposedly my friends and lifelong friends, and you start breaking out of the cult, and then you're the enemy of their
we've had that too. We have had that too.
Most of our friends,
and actually,
from that time
we
are
actually
not...
prefer going to the park these days and the park being empty, because actually the energy that around mostly appears people in fear, and with they're all going through really, really difficult time right now. So it actually feels better because funny enough, I wrote in the comment that Dave and I were reflecting the other day how grateful we are actually for the difficult time we've had, because what it's done is it's forced us to detach from so many things that people are now having to going to confront, really, and
or not going to be able to manage to confront,
or not be able to confront, and so life is going to become tougher. Yet we've had to give up so much of that stuff. So and really in a good place with having given it up. So and now it's actually it's now time for us to actually look forward and actually call in people, like-minded people that we can start to connect with and build with, and I know that will come. So yeah, we've also been through we've had to kind of detach from friendships, sometimes family even. Well, not
I was saying to Andrea,
just,
we were just reminiscing because it's been the craziest of years. But the last time that we were invited to a party, to like someone's house party, was a good few years ago now.
Well,
maybe.
it must be 2016.
And I really, as long as that. Well, because when I remember this party, because I was like in love. I'd only just I was discovering all this wonderful stuff, and so I'm going around. I think I'd done the DMT as well, so I knew that we were all one, and I love my brother and all this sort of stuff, and I'm just one of the most popular guys at the party. And then later in the night, I start talking about the flat Earth and stuff, and I've never heard from those people again.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a lonely road. It's meant to be. Actually, this is it. This is it. It's part of it. And I think one of the good things I've learned is that.
I'll just make a quick point. I think it goes back to that idea of us being the 5-watt laser instead of the 5-watt bulb. Rather than just freely giving our energy to everybody we see and meet and letting that be the thing. Like, we're being asked to concentrate our energy right now and become the laser that can, change the 3D reality here by changing systems, by concentrating our energy ourselves, and then linking up with others like ourselves that are concentrating their energy.
Yes.
Because the other world...
Definitely. I think it's about going back to yourself, and then, like I said, the rebuild. So then building yourself back up again so that you can be that high energy within your own self, because we've given it all away, right? We've been,
especially getting our wheels caught up in, for me back in 2005, like learning about 9/11, that was my opening to the truth community, and then like dropping like the rest of my life, like what the momentum I've been building towards, losing friends ever since, and like I think that is part of the trapping, is to get spun into a negative trajectory using their information to excuse having a bad time in your experience here. Like, and I think that's where I'm at right now, is learning like, okay, how can you hold that information and then be positive so it doesn't derail you, and then use that motivation, like, I sound like a broken record, to build how the inner intuition of how it's meant to be here. Like Dave's vision of like, there should be communities that say, let's go recruit this brilliant person that needs land, bring them, teach them, share, and like let's build a stronger community and keep doing that and growing that way, and then have systems on site that are producing abundance so that we have it to share and keep growing that way.
From my personal experience, and not that it's huge, but that we have a way to go in terms of healing some of that, those parts of ourselves that struggle with that outreach or sharing or and so
know thyself.
That's the
part of it.
I think that's been our journey anyway. Is quietening the ego a little bit so that we can we can work on thyself and that self-love, and with having boundaries of course too, but and then getting to the point that hopefully we will want to be part of a common unity.
But whatever we're doing, I think whatever choices we're making, whatever route we're taking, we need to do it in that kind of like, calm state rather than in that panic state, which is what Alex Jones would like to do, is have you like, freaking out, packing your bags in 5 minutes, rushing down the road and doing something that you don't really want to do because you did it because you thought you had to, but you didn't really know yourself. And you might have been the guy who, had you stayed where you were in the basement for another 6 months, you might have picked up the guitar and found yourself a career doing something that you never imagined doing. So it's more about, I think it's so important that we have these ambitions to return to a more natural world. But for the majority of people, most of us grown up in a supermarket, and so we don't have necessarily the potential to all achieve that at this point in time, but we have the potential to know ourselves wherever we are, and to find ourselves in a calm way to the thing that we love doing, because that's our true creative intent, I suppose. Yeah. I had this comment hanging on here for a little while from Love in the Midst. Nice name. But we breathe water. Water carries intentions. We breathe out our intentions and absorb others, and we kind of get that totally. I wanted to offer you something. I was banging on about the 3 states of primary states of existence, which is magnetism, electricity, and ether. And ether, by the way, is breath. It's just add a B and you got breathe in the word ether. So it's one of those important words that I think comes from it. I think, Love in the Midst, that actually water is in 4 states, or what we see as water. Or so I should say rather, ether is in 4 states, and we live and exist in what we call the air, and that's a very thin state of ether. It gets thinner as you go higher up, and it gets thicker as you go down, becomes water, eventually it becomes sea. And then when it gets away from the sun or whatever, it can get high, get super cold and freezes. And water carries all information, and I think that your lungs have what the words escape me now, but not the dendrites. You know what I mean? The receptors in your lungs are actually not possibly doing what they tell us, taking oxygen out. I think it's that the moisture is actually like giving us an electrical impulse, because we know that electricity can really only be carried in moisture, and that moisture needs to have minerals in it. So the moisture or the water in the earth needs to be mineralized by the earth itself, and the electricity in the system can only operate within the aegis of water or moisture in an environment. So I think that the water is carrying all knowledge. When we breathe it, we in the thin amount that it's giving us an electrical charge. I like to stand in the rain because I think it's giving me some kind of information. So there's that on the ether, on the water, and I think it is our foundational thing. But I said earlier on, Jason, and I'd like to repeat it for anyone who wasn't here at the time. I think that the Gaia agenda might be part of a new age trick to kind of get us to go from focusing on this kind of patriarchal masculine system to a certain kind of feminine system, one again skewed, because in the electric system, there's masculine and feminine. We know that we have masculine and feminine traits within our lower part and in our upper part. And so it is these elements that need to be in balance rather than in disharmony. So where we've created a hell or a lower earth, one which is so focused on the earth and on the lower stuff, I'm losing my thread on that. I will do a much better presentation on this, guys. And maybe I should let Permaculture have a word because he hasn't spoken for hours. How are you doing? Still there, brother. Still breathing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, good stuff. It's very interesting. Well, one thing about water and intentions and stuff like that, if you look into Emoto's work,
yes,
and how our intentions affect water and the different formations he discovered through doing all those experiments. If you think about tears, it's very powerful what our tears can actually be, because they're produced at such a heightened energetic emotional state. If you think of when you're sad or when you're super happy, or when you're just
like you
all
might
those
be
different states,
water and to release it.
Yeah,
like
it's
sort of
very
like
magical.
Yeah.
Well, water's great because water doesn't do anything. So water is like the best way for us to understand the ether, I think, and like energy, electricity. So like water is just, it's even hard to imagine, but it's not, I don't think it's in 4 states. Like it's the same thing with 4 states of the ether. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's going to take the shape of the container it's in. That's basically what water does, is it's like, hey man, whatever you want, I'll be it. So then as the etheric properties change, that container changes shape of the water. So the water is like being the same thing. The ether is actually changing. So the water is showing us what energy is. So when we see waves, we're seeing energy.
Yeah.
The water is just reflecting energy moving through the water.
Yes.
And so when there's then we see what happens when there's no energy, is that it becomes a block. And the less energy there is, the more the block is. So then when you add more energy, it becomes air, and more energy, it becomes plasma. And so it's absurd that science denies this idea that there's an etheric layer, or I don't even know what you would call it, like an etheric field that we're in. Because it's literally staring at us every time we get water. Like that's the etheric field, is the water. That water doesn't do anything without energy flowing through it. You know what I mean? It's a block of ice.
Absolutely. And we are nothing but without energy flowing through us. We are essentially water. We are the microcosm in the macrocosm. So, again, if I could create a seismic event in a particular plate, a flood, a tsunami or something like that, I could create a damage on Earth. But in the human body, see, we have been damaged in that way. We've been rewired, and I think it's a very important part of humanity's progress to understand how our systems work, so we can understand how we can unpick that. I mean, maybe the Chinese and some of these older cultures already know this stuff about how to. They must know this stuff because they've used it against us. I don't mean the Chinese. I mean the system. To harm us. And I think that the more we can truly understand our science, because our anatomy and our biology, then maybe the better we'll be able to come to terms or deal with the physical traumas that were carried out that are having an altering effect on the mental. Because I come back to what I was saying earlier on, that if we're living in a hell system, it's because we are in the lower, darker, hotter, hellish parts of the chakra system. We are imbalanced. Neutral is earth. The balance is between the two. And if I can hold you in the lower one, both masculine and feminine, by the way, this is not just about keeping men in the lower, because obviously there's both masculine and feminine, keep them in a state of trauma, then they're going to be in that fight or flight conditioning. all of their lives and in a state of Stockholm syndrome, like seeking an authority figure. That's why, you know, in the Catholic Church, I think some of the things they did to young children or do to young children, they do that on purpose, because that altering. And by the way, you know, the word altar, which is very popular in the church, could be spelled either way, and it is really where they stand to alter you.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I feel like we're here in an experience we don't fully have full awareness of what it is to give, you know, ultimate power to these outside forces acting on us in this momentary experience as more than, I don't know, a theater show to some extent. Like, if we are infinite beings that are, you know, we'd get bored really fast having no contrast, so to speak.
Yes.
And so, like, I think the mission here is to wake up, break the spell, get out of the victim mentality, focus your energies into whatever like your intuition is daily. And then it, you know, you may build a few balls of this and a few balls of that, and then eventually you're going to hit that one thing that really is, you know, your main purpose, or whatever the movie Soul, you know, maybe sort of talks about, where, you know, your thing, and then you hit that thing and that ball is going to start snowballing, and then all of a sudden you're not so worried about the cabal as much as you're like worried about how this thing's growing. How am I going to like make sure I have enough other people helping me that are excited about this project to sort of keep this ball rolling forward? And whether it's, you know, again, going back to Owen Benjamin, building this, you know, whole community that's filled in around him of people that are like, you know, builders, and some people are farmers, and some people are permaculture, and, you know, being that tent pole that can collect a community underneath it, and, you know, in your local area is the only way out of
I think you're right. I think, and it is that kind of community thing that will hopefully, work. And where I'm staying at the moment, you know, I do feel like unless something shifts, then the majority of people are going to keep voting and keep choosing, you know, more constraints and more control, and give away more of their
but you could assume that at this point. I mean, that, like, I can't, like, that's like lost cycles. That's like lost brain cycles, is worrying about what people are going to do, because I've worried about that for 15 years and it hasn't gotten me anything but more stress, worry. And now that I finally like dropped that, like, I'm actually making progress, and like, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about what they're going to do. Their energy is not focused. So they're not going to do, they're going to be taken along by the narrative. And that's what needs to be starved, is the narrative. So, you know, it's the double-sided sword of the truth community, is plugging into the narrative and then carrying the narrative, and then having some kind of codependency with the narrative, when the solution is to focus on your interest and grow it into something that becomes its own narrative. And then people can plug into your narrative. And, you know, as you're doing with this channel, as you're doing with your voice, you know, you're growing a network of people that resonate with you. And now together, that's more power than you alone feeling a certain way about the world. And I think, you know, to recognize the power that you've built, and to understand that you can focus that energy, you know, and the more you focus it, the more people will gravitate towards you. Because people are hungry for this answer. They want to know, what do we do next, Dave? Where do we go? I need practical solutions today. What do I do to break out of this satanic system? I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I don't want to give my energy to it anymore. I see it. It's clear. I just need action items day to day. How do I do it? And so that's an
and hopefully we can learn, or have the humility to learn from those farmers, or those, you know, those people who have, you know, who have taken the lead on some of these things in some of these areas. And as I said earlier on, I think perhaps the core of the orchestra will come together in a fine way in those places where people are able to find a new way. But I think we've got many months of strangeness still to unfold in the world for most people. You know, I think how nice for us all to have that option to, you know, get a few, you know, a little space between our neighbors, and a community going, and out of the rat race and so on. But I think there's a few twists and turns, and we'll have to let those kind of, in a way, unfold. And whilst that's unfolding, like you say, try not to get too caught up in the theater, but realize that this is an opportunity for each of us to hone ourselves in whatever it is that we're doing. But foundationally, I think for me, and this is why I called this, and I want to call a few series of talks that where I focus on belief and ego, and how these have been stroked in all of us, such that even deep researchers, and I won't name any, but deep researchers who will still hold on to crumbs being held out to them by the system, as a possible savior. I think these are incredibly exciting times. It has been, as Andrea said earlier on, for us personally, quite challenging, and I know for a lot of people extremely challenging over this last year or so. But it's I think it's going towards something really new in terms of what we might be able to achieve as creative beings here, because it is that creator essence that we have and have misplaced or had dulled. And I think if we can raise that again, maybe there is a renaissance for more than just the few of us coming.
Yeah, because I think what we're seeing, like, because you mentioned it becoming more strange, and I had a realization about that recently. Like, it's not becoming more strange. It's business as usual. Like, it may seem like a stark contrast because within 1 year now, people are triple mask. You got a triple mask if you don't want to catch the cooties. Like, so that behavior pattern in real time for us in 8 months change, to see people just download that nonsense thinking and just run with it. But that's how they got us on a spinning ball. That's how they got us to take like poison and call it medicine. That's how they got us to think energy has to be burning fuel or something. Like, everything we're steeped in is their bullshit narrative. And we're always, like, our whole lives before we woke up, we're just taking that low-hanging information and building lives around it, using that as like, well, the men in white lab coats know best, so I'm just going to take their information and build my life around it. It's just that. Nothing's changed, really. It's just that it's just we're further down the timeline of, like, trust the experts. The Rockefeller groups wouldn't lie, and so it's going to keep manifesting. They have an audience. It's a majority of the audience. It's a huge audience. It might not even, I don't even think it's the majority anymore. They have like a lot of people, millions of people, billions possibly, that follow their narrative. And
how do you tell? How do you tell how much anybody is in any group? It's all through screens. I mean,
yeah, it's all numbers. So, well, you can tell by double maskers, I think. If you count the amount of double, the real numbers. We should have that. We should have Dave Zoom Truth on here, and he should add that to his app as we tally the number of double and triple maskers around us, so we can get some kind of sense of how many people are really locked into this narrative, the mainstream narrative.
I mean, part of it is what you're focusing on. It's that type of thing where, like, you get a new car and then you start seeing that new car or that type of car everywhere. It's like what you're focused on, you kind of experience more or realize more. So it's like where I'm in the country and doing this sort of natural living stuff, I see tons of people moving out. I see people are driving out and just coming on to our neighbor's property and asking for, if they have places to buy. I mean, people are wanting to get out of the cities. People are trying to get towards the natural. I see a lot of the focus towards wanting to get land and that sort of thing in our community. And it seems like things are going that direction, but people kind of slide backwards and then refocus on the big ball of light that is the screen and the political system and all that junk. And then they'll probably refocus back on the good stuff and then keep moving, or however their path takes them.
Because the other thing is, this narrative, this big ball of light, it's our shared creative reality. So I think that was the thing I liked about the Q community is like, can you take over the narrative and steer it? Is the reality that flexible that if there is a majority, and what you had is you probably had a majority of people ready to enact the Q reality as the reality, but when push came to shove and it's time to like take over castles, they weren't there. like, like they had the numbers, they had the narrative, they had like, you know what I mean, the hearts and minds, and they could have just taken it to the 3D and it could have happened. You know what I mean? But then now you're talking about civil war, and war is not pretty and it's not done lightly. So I think that's all there is. We have this shared idea of how the world works, and if you plug into the culture, like the mainstream American culture, you think the world works a certain way. And our job is to start selling our alternative narrative to people, but until it's no longer the alternative, it's just what is.
Yeah, and I think there's a focus there's a major focus in this community to waking everybody up, and then we all go somewhere, whereas I think it should be more about flow.
Right.
So restoring the flow to the natural, to the good, and whether it's going there yourself and maybe followers, or in my case, I'm trying to just like pop back into the prison and tell people, hello, there's an exit.
Right.
and then like give people a signpost or whatever. But yeah, I think it's it's back to your energy flows where your attention goes. And if we focus our attention on chasing people down the wrong path, then we're just following people down the wrong path, even if it's for an altruistic purpose. And
yeah, but it also says this important thing. It's hard to hear, but if that's what we've found ourselves doing, then we've actually found ourselves wanting. And I think this is what I'm not sure those people, and I know I'm picking on the Q thing, but it's easy and it's not as sensitive as some of the other belief systems out there. But if people have been, if they've been conned still, then their vision hasn't yet been cleared enough, and they have to think, if they want to think, well, what is it that is still not right in me? Because if it is a victim mentality, say, oh, I'm being badly treated and I'm hoping that it's going to treat me better, I'm asking it to treat me better, and it's not going to treat you better. It's not going to treat any of us better, unless we go and work for it and it gives us a nice pension and all that sort of thing. But and so there is this fundamental thing that I'm calling out in the truth community to say that if you're still caught up in a belief system, then your laser is not as sharp as you think. And I'm saying this because it doesn't matter where you live. I think that this is maybe one of the tricks is that we've been given this like, wow, there's a utopia. Well, whatever utopia is, there's like an Eden waiting for you out there. Why don't you just go and grab it? When again, it's like, and this, I'd love to be on a farm and stuff like that. And if I, what I mean, if that was the reality that was being manifest for me, or I can bring into I tried that last year, didn't I? And I will try again, to be sure. But I realized that if I was frantically scrabbling the ground, cleaning up after some other dude, if that's what I was doing right now, I would not be working on myself. You see, so
yeah, but you can work on yourself in that same moment. I think that's exactly how you work on yourself, kind of, because I'm taking on this like very like mundane job that is like absurd as I'm doing it. I'm like filling out these papers that I have to leave on different doors for filming to like make sure it's okay. So I'm like rewriting the same thing, and I think there is like that's when you practice your like Zen, like, can I let this not derail me emotionally? Can I let this repetitive? Can I let this the absurdity that my life is this right now?
Can I ask you a question quickly, Jason? Is that the same house you've been in for the last year?
Oh, where I'm at right now? Yeah.
So in the last year, my little boy has had no less than 60 different addresses and houses in the last year.
Yeah.
Places. And let me tell you, that is the most destabilizing position to be in. You cannot,
Well,
it's not
remember,
like it's like taking
remember I wrote you.
pot plant. It's like taking a pot plant out every day and repotting it and saying, "I want you to grow strong." You can't do that. And so all I'm saying
I wrote
is,
you when I was young. My mom, my mom was a teenager when she had me, so I moved around a ton,
yeah.
and I
So,
I loved that. Like when we actually had a house for 7 years in a row,
yeah,
was when my life got bad because it was with
yeah,
an asshole. But when we were moving around all the time,
yeah.
and I knew my mother loved me, like, so I don't like.
Yeah,
As
no, Alexander, I'm not making this about Alexander. I'm saying that for me to center myself, to find myself, I don't do that while I'm pounding the right life raft trying to get to the shore. When you're pounding the life raft, all you're doing is trying to stay alive. So what I'm offering as a word of caution, or just from my experience, is that whilst it's great to find your nirvana or your happiest place, it's absolutely, we're going to be most creative when we're in our happiest place. But if you now spend the next 3 years frantically swimming to a shore that is possibly off in the distance, rather than maybe spending this time now where you are knowing thyself, coming to peace with this place, it's almost like that's the way to come free. Because when you're at peace with yourself, then you will attract, the magnetism will be right, the electricity will be right, and you will attract the right partners, you will attract the right business opportunities, you will attract the right lifestyle for the person that you are. So that's really just my thing. I'm for being on the land. I'm for a return to nature. I'm all about that. But I'm just saying to people, I'm not trying to be a harbinger of get on your bike now, go and do that now. I'm saying do what's right for you now, but don't do stuff in a way that's going to create more tension in your life, more instability. Because I agree with you. I mean, when I was doing gardening to get by, I used to love the hours pruning, weeding, or whatever. Okay, not too much down on the knees, but I love those hours because they would be great times for my head to clear and stuff like that. That's not the issue. The issue is that if you're creating a state of turbulence, now you've moved here and it's not worked out, and you've had to go there and so on, you're not getting that calm time or that time, that centering time for yourself. And so, because I want you got to remember that some of the people that are listening to this are thinking to themselves, what the fuck am I meant to do? What am I supposed to be doing? I've got to go out and get a farm now. I've got to go and learn how to be a permaculturist. No, you don't. Learn who you are, and then the rest of the answers will fall into place. Learn who you are.
What would you overall encourage people to do though? Like overall, functionally, we are like fish out of water when we're not connected to land, when we're not connected directly to resources. So overall, we need to be moving that direction, just as a common sense, general physical thing. Like we're all on our different paths, and it's great to wake up spiritually and connect to yourself and all this stuff. But the theater is on fire, and if we don't make it to the exit, it's not going to be good. You don't have to panic. That doesn't help, but we do have to start moving towards something and not always reacting.
Well, this is where I'm starting to think a little differently. I probably would have agreed wholeheartedly, and to an extent I do, but I think like this. There is no death. So if I'm to die, in London or in Portugal or in South Africa, if I'm to die doing the thing that I love doing most, then that's the most important thing. So, I don't, one guy might want to be an ironsmith, another one's an electrician, another one's a mechanic. And, it's not to say that everyone needs to become, like a wheat farmer, or even necessarily be, acres and miles from his neighbor. That's not everybody's course. Everybody's course. I feel like the test is, this is what the test looks like. The test looks like these cities. The test looks like this insane system that is run by some kind of psychopathic control system, right? That's what it looks like. So, you can do your thing of going to one place or doing another thing or whatever, but those are the external things. Those are the things outside. And to an extent, so long as you're being, fed and sheltered and you're not freezing to death and you're comfortable, what's most important is the work that you're doing on yourself, whether you be in a cell, in a factory. A guy wrote to me the other day, I listened to your podcast while I'm working in a factory. It doesn't matter where you are. you can be with God, you can be in your Christ essence, or loving kind of closest to a balanced whatever harmonic instrument we're meant to be, and in that way and in that time you will create as you are meant to create, not as I want you to create, but as you came here to create. So let me not tell you what is your course of action, but I really suggest that it's like you can never know what your true course of action is unless you know who you are, and you will never realize how much you've been damaged until we start to unpick. Wow, they were stabbing me in the foot when I was seconds old, and everything else that came after that. How could I possibly know who and what I really am? So I love Owen Benjamin. I think he's a great role model. He seems like a good man. I haven't listened to him for a long time, but I could pick at this. I'm not going to do that. But I will say that's not the only way that people will do that. And most importantly, if we're to win this test, we're to win it like inside, not to be the guy with the biggest car or the fastest growing plums. Those are great to have, but that's like the cherry on the top. For me, as I've said to Andrea, because we've had to go through times of thinking, are we going to get through this? Is this all she wrote? Because it's been times pretty dark along this journey. But I've had to reconcile myself with no matter if I don't achieve, it doesn't matter now. I want to draw on magnetizing things that make my life rich in all the ways that you can imagine, because this is what our heritage is to come here and honor this earth, but to enjoy the fruits of it. Yeah. So I want that. But if I'm not to achieve that in my lifetime, if my life was to end today, I would want to know that I had still done the work on me. And let me assure you, while I was trying to stay afloat in Portugal, I was not doing the right work on me. I appreciate the quiet time that I had there, but I was in a state of uncertainty and insecurity, and for my family and for my next day, and so on and so forth. And from that, in that acidic environment, you can't grow beautiful things. And so I know that just simplifying as much as possible your life and centering on yourself, then you will magnetize in, and you will have the electricity for the energy for creating everything that you are meant to create. And that's my kind of summation on that, because I don't want us. This is what the system has done: is it's created this thing of like we have to do something different, and I want to do something different. I want for this system. I want for everybody to wake up. But I know that the only world that I can change, the only universe that I can change, is my own. And the only way that I'm ever going to magnetize in those things, because Daddy didn't give me, or I wasn't working smart enough in whatever industry 20 years ago, I don't have that opportunity to go out there. And I refuse at 52, as a creator of this creation, or as a sovereign being, I refuse to be made to be like a servant. I think that is an abomination to God in itself. So,
well, who are you serving, being dependent on grocery stores and stuff like that? I mean, that keeps you in a state of anxiety, and it's good to get into a place where you can be higher and like mind over matter stuff. But it is much wiser, in my opinion, to recognize that we are also physical, and we also do need to take care of our physical existence, and absolutely. We have these tools at hand that really make it a whole lot easier. It's like permaculture is essentially like right brain translation through the left brain. So it's like people that don't know how to intuitively connect and manifest things, through that connection, really can get it on that sort of piece by piece left brain, step by step process, and really see it manifest even if they don't realize it's happening. So we do have a lot of tools at hand, and some, like when I talk about cities, I don't mean I don't mean you have to get out of the city, but if you're in an apartment and you're not connected to any land, then obviously you don't. It's hard to have much potential there. But like where Jason is, if you're on a suburban lot, then start connecting and growing
Oh,
and
yeah,
and
yeah,
doing things
absolutely,
like he
brother.
is.
Let me make no bones about it. Even if you live in a tower block, you've got to get down onto the ground. If you can't get out of that, you've got to get on the ground. You've got to get in the sun. You've got to hug the trees. You've got to do all of these things. But you don't want to put yourself under stress, So if you're like, if you're creating stress to create this, if it takes a stress to create that, maybe a short amount of stress is worthwhile. That's a judgment call for the individual to make. But equally, it's like, there's a risk of, because whilst I'm all for that, and the more that grows, the better. But I'm also so aware that most of the people that I have listening on this channel are not in a position to leave their current situation. So what can you do in that situation? I guess it's important not to go, shit, I don't have the £100,000 or whatever it is. I don't have the piece of land. I don't have.
You have to want it bad enough, I think. Like I've been broke, like living in cars, like so many times as an adult, and like if you want something, the world will, like, in my experience, the world will shift and morph and you'll find that thing. Like I was like, had no money in New York City and wanted to like start gardening, and out of, nowhere, I found this opportunity to go move to Oregon where I could like work trade and like supposedly learn how to garden. I didn't end up learning too much how to garden, but like I had no money and like I had no options, and like, but I wanted something bad enough that the reality is like, okay, you can have this little biscuit over here and you can follow this trail. And then if you do this, if you really build the right way around this, then you'll have a little more opportunity there. That's the same place that I told you a year later I was getting sued by the people that I was living with for trying to build a co-op that they helped me start building. But
No, I think you're right. I think there is an element of that, but maybe because some people are more attractors than others, for those kind of things. So
I think it goes back to focus again. Like if it's all about focus, like Playing Permaculture said, like the big light show that is the worldwide theater, it's pulling your energy away. It's pulling your focus away. Like if you can focus and concentrate on a vision, like Atlanta's Creed Awake says, like if you can just every day just draw what you want, draw a vision of what you want, like literally draw the community. Like if you're stuck in a job that's dead end and you don't know, plot, like make what you want on a piece of paper every day, like draw out how you're gonna have the gardens, do the research to the complementary plants that you're gonna plant, the seed, what zone you're gonna be in, and can you make microclimates, like dream it into existence on paper, and every day you'll get more and more excited as you build that reality for yourself. And like you got to start with paper and pen, and then as you see it come to life, you're gonna you're gonna start talking about it with everybody, like, oh, I've got this vision of this garden, and someone's gonna be like, oh, blah blah blah, I have these extra plants laying in my backyard, I don't know what I'm gonna do with, like, do you want my lemon tree or something? Like little things like that will start happening the more excited you get, and the more you focus and concentrate and just spit out the black pill. Like who cares what the sheeple are doing, the sleeple are doing? Like they're there going through their experience, whatever that thing is, they can wake out of it. If our mission is to help wake up the sheeple, then that will connect with us, and our channels will grow, and people will like the way we say it. Like I'm not that person. I'm not the person that like people just gravitate to me for the way that I talk about truth. Like people like go the other way when I start talking, they want to be outside of the room. But there's other people like Owen Benjamin, like Jeff Berwick, that they start talking about how the world is run by psychopaths, and they make it funny, and people are like, yes, thank you. You're saying it the way I want to know how to say it.
Yeah.
So for me, like I'm really good at like technical. I'm really good at just DIY and jumping into something I know nothing about and learning everything about it and then getting good at it. So like for me, I'm like, okay, let me concentrate all my energy into figuring out how to master this world, which is the online world, which is what everybody now is being pulled in magnetically into the online. So it's like, okay, if I can become a builder in the online, well, then I can provide a platform for people as people are getting deplatformed and, the importance of decentralization is going to become ever so more important. So it is a bleeding edge thing that is happening out in the cryptocurrency world that most people don't really understand what is happening. And the fact that Bitcoin's not going up in price because of whatever government speculators, or it's going up because it's an inevitability. Like what the technology is inevitably going to be as valuable a store of value as anything in the world because of what it is. But until the individual understands that, and okay, maybe it won't be Bitcoin, but whatever Bitcoin, but maybe it will be Bitcoin. It probably will be Bitcoin because it has the lead and it has the momentum and it has like the billion-dollar infrastructure that's been built out behind it. But it's coming. The next thing is coming. Like what we do right now, we go on YouTube or we go on Facebook and like we go on Twitter and you tweet and you don't get paid because the value you're giving, the focus you're giving to that platform is then being harnessed by Twitter. And so you're creating value for that platform. The next wave that's coming that is blockchain is that you get paid. Like library, you get paid every day for watching videos on library. Like maybe it's just 10 cents today, but that library token that they're giving you for watching could be $10 in a year or two. It could be $100 in 10 years. Who knows? Like that's the future, is that you get paid for participating in those platforms. And that will slowly, as people wake up to that reality, and then they have the censorship going on YouTube. There's no reason we should be on YouTube other than the fact that they have all the, technology right now. Like we can live stream right now. We can't live stream on LBRY. But on a long enough timeline, LBRY is going to have live streaming. It's going to have all the features that YouTube has, and it's going to pay us to participate. And we will be the co-owners of the platform, and not just LBRY, but like all the other apps that are being built on the blockchain. It's a participation model where you get rewarded for participating in it and with the tokens. And I guess DLive kind of does that with the lemons. So that's so that's like around the corner. Like we're stuck in this awkward, weird place where the the FANG companies still have the mainstream audience or the majority audience or something. But,
well, I think we live on the precipice of some fantastically different and interesting times. So yeah, I think there is obviously more opportunity for people in the online world, and I think is the comment that Drew wrote here. I should have stood. The keyboard is an ultimately double-edged sword. We can unite and exchange ideas online, but that doesn't translate to physical change. Thus, it remains a theory. It's interesting, hey, how there are all these really well-meaning, activist groups online, and we're just like echo chambers that have been kind of controlled and curtailed and so on. But yeah, I think ultimately we will make the difference by doing it together. But as I say, I think online traffic is going to increase exponentially over the years ahead.
Hey, someone mentioned where do we go to draw out ideas about communities and stuff like that? If you email me at plainpermaculture@gmail.com, we have a Discord, me and Jason, and it's all about forming communities and this and that. So yeah, just email me or send me a comment on any of my videos or something like that. But for anybody stuck in apartments and stuff like that, and you're not connected to land, you have an opportunity to gain knowledge. I would recommend looking up permaculture stuff, either free videos or sometimes you can find books online, and learn as much as you can for when you do have the opportunity. And also source. If you're sourcing your stuff, you'll often go to the farmers markets, go to the people that do grow organically and have land and stuff, and start networking. Sometimes you'll be able to volunteer, and then sometimes oftentimes people with land they're looking for people. Sometimes they're older. They're looking for people that they can pass the land on to, but they don't know who to trust. So if you form those relationships and get that network growing, then people will recommend you, or you'll come across those opportunities. I've taken a cob workshop at a place um, here in Texas, and they just knew the previous owner, and that guy turned the land into a conservation easement, and so they're essentially just the caretakers. So there was no exchange of money involved. They're just, they just always, they can live there forever. So
Awesome.
essentially, if you don't know what that is, it's where you turn the land into a trust, and then that's just managed by the trust. But yeah, if we have time, I have pictures of an herb spiral, which is a really easy project.
Please show us.
Oh yeah.
That I've done. Let's
How's
see.
that? All right. I wasn't seeing much light during our journey, Dave. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Well, thank you.
I'll answer Bonbon real quick, who asked if I was referring to The Secret, The Power by Rhonda Byrne. Not specifically. I'm just speaking about, like, in my life when, I've been in a lot of dark times in my life. And, like, when I actually decided to start putting things to paper, because I've, I spent a lot of time writing stories out here in Hollywood. Yeah, I get excited. You start building your own vision. Like, your own creativity can really, like, ignite your passion for life. And then it can bring a new reality.
Yeah. And I think when you write it down, it does something to the kind of, you're seeing it and you're acting it out, so there's this electrical and magnetic thing that's going on. So
yeah, that's how branding all works. It's just writing something down and putting it in front of a bunch of people, and all of a sudden everybody drinks Coke, like, just because they saw some words.
Can you see this, or I don't know what's happening?
Oh yeah. I'm going to add you to the stream, so we can see you now.
Yeah, set your intentions and goals, and a lot of times that's one of the first steps towards manifesting that in reality.
Yes.
Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a permaculture presentation I'm working on, and at some point we should do it on your channel or my channel, Jason.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I like it.
And then I have lots of different examples.
About writing it down. Like, you probably started this as, like, writing down some notes for what you wanted to do, or just some notes on the computer. And now it's turned into this beautiful presentation that can, like, help people understand the excitement about permaculture. And you were probably excited building this as you were building it. Like, you could have been depressed before and then started doing this. And
yeah, I wasn't depressed, but yeah, I was excited.
Yeah, you're up, mate.
So this is, you can kind of see the pictures of before on the left. I didn't get it right at the beginning, but so basically I have, and all these rocks I got from neighbors, and even the granite I got free from a nearby location. And what I did is I put wood in here. Let me go to the, so this is kind of a slideshow that goes through. I have wood in there, so it's kind of like a hybrid herb spiral hugelkultur. And then there's a rooster. I have these Oya pots, which are a classic way to hydrate or moisturize or water especially in drier climates. So let me just click through this so it didn't last forever. So one thing about the herb spiral is it's such a dynamic, very functional type of bed you can make, because it has all these different microclimates and all these different functions just built into the design. And you see them a lot of different ways. A lot of times there's ponds at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
So you essentially at the bottom you have the more um the more the plants that require the most moisture, and then at the top you have the dry stuff. So you have like rosemary or lavender and stuff like that.
Okay.
And like in the pond, you'd have like watercress and those types of plants.
Yeah.
But this is the cover crops.
That looks
And
cool.
then
That's awesome.
this is just some of the plants put in. And I've gotten so much stuff from just this one bed. So
yeah, you have like mint, spearmint in there, kale,
all sorts of stuff.
That's a great example of something that almost anyone could do at home, and you can save yourself a bit of money. But to eat those things without any pesticides on them, that's a good thing too. That's a good thing.
Haven't sat in plastic for a weekend.
No, that's cool. That's really cool. Well done.
There's a frog that jumped in there almost immediately after I built it. And that's the other thing. This is more recent pictures. You'll see the harmonizing. Once you harmonize with nature, it's like the animals and the creatures, they all kind of get the message that it's that non-verbal communication. And they'll just show up and life will sort of fill in the gaps.
Awesome. So
I mean, there's tons of stuff you can do in just a tiny area. Oh yeah, there's a praying mantis eating a grasshopper.
Wow.
On a crystal cluster.
Looks like he's full already. What's he doing eating a grasshopper?
he's huge. It's like 4 inches or something.
Wow.
But yeah, so I mean, this thing will go forever. It'll last forever. So, and all I do is, keep adding plants, keep chopping and dropping.
Is that
these are tomatoes growing up into the tree above.
Whoa, that's wild.
So it's like 15 feet up there.
Wow.
Tie them up?
Huh?
Did you have to train them to do that?
I think we tied it up once, but generally it grabbed on.
Oh wow! All right.
Wow.
That's my cat in front of a bunch of catnip.
How much do you lose in the winter?
I don't. This winter has been pretty mild, and it's under a tree, so it gets that sort of warmer microclimate. So things have done really well, and then everything at the top generally doesn't freeze.
Okay.
It kind of like spirals down. The cold, like frost moves like water does. So, all this stuff, generally I let stuff go and then I chop and drop it so that, it just keeps building the soil. And I mean, there's not really much to all this. It's just getting out of the way of nature and letting nature do its thing. You're kind of the guiding force and the initiator of it all. But
yeah, and again, like it's you get to participate in the potential reality of how we're meant to live here. I think when just even having that one little system set up like shows you like, oh, it could be so much easier. I could just come right out to my backyard and just get what I need for the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this is very, very important. Well, that's quite an impressive creation. I have to say, when last summer in Portugal, I had some of the best days, in years, just working the land, creating things that were going to be, hopefully useful. And of course, if I had, say, 3, 5, 7 years to invest in a piece of land, you could quite easily say, between me and my neighbors, we almost would never need to go to the shop. And I think that's something that we should be working towards. But always, as I say, the most important thing here is you, not so much, where you are, but who and what you are.
I think it's a big part. So yeah, look forward to this presentation on. I'll put it on my channel. Maybe we'll do it on Jason's channel, and
Cool.
I'll probably whoever else. I was gonna go on Jaren's channel, so I think I'm gonna still do that, and then Rodrigo's channel. So I'm gonna do it wherever anybody's open for it. So
Awesome. Awesome. Wow.
Nice.
That's very good, and good luck with that. I noticed a comment earlier on that I just wanted to point out that foot soldiers that I do understand with Bitcoin there are only a limited number of them, so it's not what's happening is they're getting fragmented into smaller and smaller bits so that people can buy a piece, but there are only a limit. Is that right, Jason? Or
There's 21 million, and 21 million will be released total in like the next 80 years or 100 years, something like that. Right now, there's about 18 million in circulation. There's 1 million that's locked by the unknown creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. There's, lost. There's countless amount lost. So the actual amount in circulation, nobody really knows. I guess you can sort of check how much in the Bitcoin scanner, like how much has moved in the last year or two, try to get an idea. But someone else was saying like, what was it? Something about Bitcoin being
vaporware.
Yeah, exactly. Being vaporware. Like that's what people were saying in 2011. I don't understand how you can, if something could make you life-changing money, like I don't know what more you want from that. That's all anybody's doing with their lives right now, for the most part, that's caught in the system, is working for money. If there's something that was happening like right now, you used to be able to spend this amount of time that we've spent on the computer right now. If you spent this amount of time on the computer in 2011, you would be and using it to like try to figure out how to make Bitcoin back in 2011, you would be basically retired now. So it's not vaporware, it's already happened. Like that's a narrative that has been spun around it. And I don't think the cryptocurrency is all about Bitcoin either. I think it's about learning what it actually is about instead of taking on the narratives that trickle down through whatever. The truth community is already, we got here because we're sort of paranoid anyway. So, we try to like look for the flaws in things. So it's a tool. If you look for the flaws, you can find flaws. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you have to be honest. There's a couple of things that are red flags. Is that, there is an unknown source to all of this. So, in a world in which in which candor and honesty and openness is hard to find, then if a product comes up from an unknown dude, that's a bit of a red flag. And the other,
I can tell you, I was talking to a developer last night that we were trying to see if he was right for joining our project, and he was a part of the first decentralized exchange, and he is from the UK, and he ended up being basically hunted down by the authorities for basically creating that exchange and having it open on the market in the UK. So he now like is all about privacy. He doesn't share anything online anymore. And to join our project, he wanted us to make sure that we were going to release it anonymously, and that way we don't end up in the same trap that he was ending up in.
Right.
So like I've seen the authorities, if they wanted this thing to be more than it is, like they would not have hunted it down. Like I said, the FBI taking down the exchange that I had written the first trading bot for. Like I have seen in real time the takeover by Wall Street and Goldman Sachs, and the coordinated attacks by the SEC and the FBI all happened. It was 2017 when all this started happening. They attack it. Like if you want evidence that it's not their creation, you can go back. You're not going to find very good history. You kind of had to live through it, but I did live through it, and you will see it getting attacked, bought out, and minimized. Like now, like Coinbase is basically one of the only on-ramps for American fiat anymore. Back then, they're like you could be anonymously trading online for like 100 different sites, and then they get shut down one by one by one by one. So like I understand most people don't understand programming, and I'm pretty new to computer programming, but we're using computer programming right now to talk. Everything in the truth movement has been based on computer programming.
Yeah.
And you can say anything you want. You can say, computers are, DARPA, and the net is DARPA, and it's all here to, pull us into the matrix. and on a lot, we'll see. But in the meanwhile, we've connected through using that same force or technology to, share permaculture, to share ideas about building community, to share that we're frustrated with this mainstream narrative that poisons us and taxes us and, puts us in a little corner that's getting smaller and smaller and stripping rights and normalizing it. Like, we're using the same, military created resource to spread a message and connect with each other. So if you want to go down the dark path and say Bitcoin is this military created, next generation fiat control system, well, it's just technology and it's just code. And if you understand how code works, you can fork it, you can copy it, you can create your own network centers, you can have, private networks that only interact with your own community on site, and then use that technology as your own money system. Like, I don't know. I just get so frustrated when people just want to see the next bad guy. What's the next bad thing? What's that? It's like, these are tools. Either you're going to use them to build the new world right now, or you're going to just get more and more burned out, more and more frustrated, more and more, meanwhile, completely dependent on fiat currency, completely dependent on a system that already is everything people are afraid Bitcoin might be. The fiat currency is tracked, it's digital. If the power goes down, you can't use your credit card. They know where all your money goes. They'll close your account. Like, everything everybody thinks Bitcoin might be is exactly what is in their pocket right now. So I don't know. I get a little frustrated. And this is why I'm not Jeff Berwick, and this is why I'm not Owen Benjamin, because they would make that funny. I just get mad.
Yeah, I guess I'm in the same boat. But I guess, there are these things like when you first get into truth community, they say, why are they doing all of these things? Oh, it's oil, it's money, and so on. And we know that one of the primary motivators, one of the seven cardinal sins or deadly sins is greed. And so where there's opportunity for greed in this world, there are the same peoples of control, and so, I think that's my only last sort of comment on that, because obviously I don't have a dog in the race, with that. I whether I go later go whatever, but the point is, I think that where we have humans have fallen down is in the areas of greed. And so when you say to a guy, hey, why don't you give me $100 and in 2 weeks time I'll give you $500, and once upon a time I might have gone, okay, I won't even ask you a question about where that extra $400 has come from, but now I have to ask myself that question and go, what is the supply chain? But I accept the point. I still go to the mainstream supermarkets. I am still a contributor to the system, so I can't be all higher than mighty. But I just think that we haven't seen in the system anything that truly gave people power. And if this is really it, and so on, then great. But again, it seems like one of those schemes that if you were in early, it was good for you, and if you were in late, maybe you say
in early, like the people that would have been in early, like I was there in 2009 building Linux servers as my hobby, just like doing distro hopping just to find some kind of computer thing to get involved in. And literally when Bitcoin, I remember reading the article in 2009, and it was the first piece of technology news that I decided I'm not going to participate in this because I want to focus on my writing instead. Literally, that was the choice I made in 2009. Otherwise, I would have been mining from Bitcoin from the very beginning, where you would get like 1,000 Bitcoin for like an hour. Like I've seen it all happen from the very beginning. Like if I'm deep state FBI, I'm not. Then I'd be living.
No. That would be I mean, I think that most people who are, and I'm not saying that this is the case with Bitcoin, but most people who are promoting what they promote do so because they believe, even in the pharmaceutical industry, people believe that what they're doing is in the right interests of the betterment of humankind and medical whatever. So no, I don't think it's like that. So much as we've been tricked so many times, and that's
the thing is you have to empower yourself. That's why I didn't want to learn to code. Like I just figured this is power right here. Either I'm going to understand how to take this power and use it, or it's going to get taken by Goldman Sachs, who has a lot more money. They can throw billions at creating their own products.
Sure.
It's just open source. It's like Pandora's box of money it's a free for all right now. If you want to learn how to program, you can learn how to create and control value through a tokenized money
Cool.
system.
Cool.
And
Well, I mean, I think that's that's good advice, and I hope that it works out for those people that are in it. And there's more than Bitcoin, isn't there? There's like a dozen different coins now.
oh, there's like thousands. There's like
Oh,
whole
wow.
companies built on. Like so, Bitcoin is the first main one, but it's not smart. There's not smart contracts, so you can't build too much more off of Bitcoin at the moment. Although they're working on that. And then Ethereum is where it's basically a computer, like a shared computer that you can really. That's what we're building on. But I don't like the symbolism of Ethereum. It's got like the pyramid and the delta, and I have my suspicions about that's origins, but it is again, it's technology. Either you can use it or you can watch it get used against you. So I'm taking the opportunity to use it and build systems I understand and I believe in, and I believe are the cure to what is the disease of markets, which is this inability for people with a huge amount of money to restrain themselves from pumping up a market and then dumping on a market and then just going to the next market and doing it to them. Like the token, the protocol we've created, like makes everybody that's not doing that benefit from it. So the people that do that have to pay everybody that aren't doing that, and that's it. Like that's my contribution going forward, is to try to fix that little bit of the money system, and then hopefully people in the truth community understand it, and we can break free of this narrative that it's like this deep state thing. Because okay, maybe it is deep state, but then we have to create our own blockchain because blockchain is technology. So we just need to repurpose it, have our own systems, and have. That's why it is important to have pockets of sovereignty born around the plane. Like Owen Benjamin, they are in proximity with each other, so they can have a local area network and share with each other a blockchain that's local to their community. And then if they want to use that instead of the dollar to trade with each other, then they can unplug from that satanic dollar and be using their own token. That then people, maybe they want something from outside of the community. Say, I don't think eggs would ship that well, but say somebody's making sweaters in the Owen Benjamin community, and they want to have somebody buy a sweater from off Hawaii or something, then you can use their local token, which gives their local token more value. So you have to exchange your fiat for their local token, and now you buy their local token to buy the sweater from the community, and then we slowly grow that that new money system outside of the bankers. That I know for real is not the deep state. When it's our own community where the open source, the code is open source, the blockchain is verifiable with Etherscan or Bitcoin scan, whatever the scan is, which just basically means you can watch every transaction on the community to see where the money's coming from and going towards. So it's basically the truth that we're looking for locked into a digital system that's verifiable.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm sold. But yeah, I think that's useful. Thank you. And I realize we've gone over 3 hours now, so I'm keen to kind of cut it short. Like
yeah, I gotta.
don't want to go on too long. But
Hey,
I wanted to end. Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to throw out a random thought on the model, on a perspective of a model. If you ever sun gaze and you look at the sun and then you split up the sun into two, like kind of cross your eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
If you look at the sun from that perspective, like it's weird. You can cross your eyes and then use both your eyes to look at like the left or the right. And when you look at the sun from that perspective, it's hard to. It's phallic. It's like a penis of light or whatever. And so I'm wondering if it's like, if you could think of what we're in as like the womb, like we're in a womb model and the sun is conceiving life constantly. I don't know. It's just a random thought, but
yeah. Well, I see the sun for me is like either it's a reflection, or it's an expression of a point of energy. It might be like a singularity, or it might be a black hole. But I don't think, you see, coming back to my electromagnetic system, I don't think that either the electric or the magnetic are, which by the way is your sun and your moon, because the electric will be your cold blue light and your sun will be coming from the hot, the magnetic light. I think when I develop my model more, you realize, I won't go into it too much, but so you've got these two light systems or energy systems, which are reflecting this kind of electromagnetic thing. But the creation of the light, of the compression of energy happens, if you can see my screen here, in the middle of that yellow circle is a dot, and that point there is where I say is the sweet spot, or the Goldilocks zone, where these two forces come together and compress light and sound in ways that we recognize as bricks and people and trees and grass and earth and so on. I think that's how these things are happening. So it's not to give, you see, this is one of the tricks of the stuff that I've researched, is that, you think, oh, is it the sun that we're worshipping, or is it the moon we're meant to be worshipping? And as I said earlier on, is it meant to be Gaia, the creator, the mother earth, and so on? And I don't know that it's any of these things, that the creator, however the creator, brings this all together to form us, it comes from that source. And the energy sources are just a byproduct of the consciousness, or a production of the consciousness. It's not. I don't want to give the sun or the moon more than their due in this system, because honoring. This is what we've been tricked to do: is to give reverence and to worship all of these things that are actually the creation itself. It's like, I see it like this: is that, just imagine you were God. And you go, oh, I want to create a test for myself. I want an Eden or a test or a hell. I want to create that. I want to create a playground in which I can go and experience all aspects of myself.
Yeah.
And so I don't revere the sun and the moon, because if I'm the creator, I created the sun and the moon to provide the plants, myself, with all the necessary seasonal activity to create a natural cycle. And equally, this is why I don't get too caught up in all the emotional stuff that people talk about, destroying the earth, because if I was God and I created this place, I would seek to, let me just 3-screen this. I would seek to I would seek to create a place that was abundant for my needs, in terms of staying well, feeding myself, keeping healthy, warm, sheltered, all of that sort of thing. I would have created that environment for myself. But what man has done, and he's come within all his rectitude and said, no, you can't do that bit, you can't have this bit, you can't travel to that bit. If you do this bit, you have to do it like this, and so on. Well, this is not what God, the Creator. Yes, God gave us free will, and so we have, through our machinations, subjected ourselves or fallen into, these ways, which at the extreme ends are the psychopathy, perhaps, that's running this world. But I don't give any part of this world. I don't worship any part of this world or anything of this world, because we stand on top of this world as our place, and created by God, whatever that God is, whatever the Creator is, be it created by that God for itself to come and have an experience of itself, not to be put into a prison camp, not to be told that it can't do this, or it shouldn't do that, or it should feel bad because it wants to do this. These things were here for you to come and choose, like, oh, that makes me feel bad, I'm going to learn how to be better like that. Or maybe I enjoy being bad for whatever, and whatever outcome that brings because of the bad vibrations I put out, and therefore what goes out comes back in, then that's the that's the cliff I must fall off because of the choices that I've made. But those are your choices to make, because you are essentially an equal creator being here. But that's my little sort of piece on where I think, we've been tricked to give to sun worship. I think that a lot of the religions are involved in worship of various deities within the system, various toroidal energies within the electromagnetic system. Focus on Saturn or Jupiter, or Mars, or perhaps the moon and the sun. Love them, love the earth, love the animals, love the plants. Nurture them. That's what I think God would have said, but or apparently did. But don't revere them. Don't honor. Don't worship them. Don't worship the cow. Don't worship all of these things. So don't take care of them, love them, but don't treat them above yourself.
Yeah, I think every piece and the whole deserves equal respect, and it's all. But just to touch on the sun gazing thing, if you do what I said, if you cross your eyes and then you line up the holes in your eyes, which is one of the easiest ways to do it, is actually looking at the sun like that. You can actually send that light from the sun through the holes. And so essentially, I think when people are sun gazing, they're kind of bouncing it maybe down the hallway or whatever, but you can essentially direct it straight through those holes down the fiber optic cable into your, wherever it connects to in your brain. And I'm not saying this in a worship way either. I'm just saying it's there's some very powerful energetic exchanges going on there, especially when you're grounded. And
and actually to give thanks to the sun is not the same as worshiping, right? In my view, it's to give thanks to the food that you're eating is not to say you're higher than me, which is what sun worship is about. So there's a difference between using the sun reverentially, experiencing this earth reverentially, and then giving it some higher power than you. The light is a tool that was provided to you for your well-being. That's how I see it. And this is one of the new age tricks, I think, and certainly what they did to me in religion was to make me think that I was less than I am. And in the new age, they like to make you think that you are merely an evolutionary happenstance. And according to Darwin, your family members, if you go back far enough, were fish. So for me, that is a huge red flag, a huge deception. And it gets people thinking that we are just a little bit more than the monkeys or that whatever it was we came from before. And it creates a whole, I think a psychological kind of shattering of this idea that you are the creator here. And that the beasts are the beasts. They are beasts. The animals, there's clean, there's unclean, there's pets, I suppose, but really, the beasts are beasts. And the funny irony is that you've got these people bleating about beasts being treated badly while humans are being slaughtered, while humans are being stabbed in the foot when they're minutes old, while humans are being made to go to war with each other, stand on each other's throats and all this sort of stuff. But, yes, we're the ones consenting to it. But we're so screwed up that we're more interested in the beasts than we are about our fellow brother, our fellow creator, our fellow emissary or carrier of the light that Christ or God gave to each of us. Not to the animals, my friends. This light was not given to the animals. And if you're not clear on that yet, you're still caught in some belief system, whether it's Darwin or the Vatican. You're still caught in a belief system. The animals are not human. What we are, what we men are and women are of God. We are the light of God. Not the cows. They are the product. They are the Minecraft environment that was created for us to come and have. And now that we subject ourselves to these Minecraft characters and say, oh no, these Minecraft characters, the light up there and the animal over there, these are as important as me or as special as me or whatever. is to miss the point. You are the center of the show. The rest of the theater that around here is for your enjoyment. If you choose to spunk it, to waste it, to piss on it, then that's your lookout. But my choice is to say no, to love it, but not to have it hold sway over me, or to be seen in any way to be more divine and more God-centered and more intended than I am here. And that's where we all are. So on that kind of shake-up thing, I want to draw this one to a close. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say in closing?
Yeah, I would
anything.
Be positive and build, like focus self-energy. If you've listened to this chat, I've just said this over and over, but I think that's it. Like for me, what has helped me lately is focusing my energy on a positive vision of where I think I can contribute to the world that I want to see coming into being by replacing one of the systems that we're dependent on, that I know is controlled by the satanic rulers of whatever cabal, or if we're just living in a Mayan illusion, then that part of the theater.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that, and we'll be keeping an eye on that, and follow Jason's channel if you haven't already. And what about you, Plain? Permaculture?
Yeah, I would just, as usual, encourage everybody to look into permaculture, and we can send out our love, our hate, and then there's a third option, which is just indifference. And right now I see a lot of people being very indifferent towards the natural system, and there's not a lot of energy focused on that. So I would encourage people to, look into that and start connecting with themselves and the natural world, and let's not lose heart and move forward and transition out of the things we know we shouldn't be doing in the unnatural system, and look forward towards or look for the permaculture presentation I have, and you can go on my channel for other permaculture videos and links and stuff. And love and thanks, everyone.
Thank you, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for getting together, Plain.
Yeah.
And sorry Dave couldn't turn up tonight.
He slept in late stayed up way too late last night, said.
Okay. Well, in closing, I think that a lot of the guys, and Dave's one of them that I think about, is he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I know some of the other guys I've had personal conversations with that are in the chat. There are times when this can feel like it's never ending, like we're all on our own, that we're on some kind of crazy thing that's not having any ending. And I think that it will end, or we're eternal, we don't end. But whatever's going on for the human story, however we've gotten into this pickle, because I am concerned for. I am not concerned. I think you're right not to be. You're right to take a sort of neutral, because this is a lot I talk about in my Trinity Torus model, is that there's a negative, positive, and a neutral in all of these systems. So I think that neutral balance, the green. In fact, I think that the red hearts that we all put out at Valentine's Day should probably be green, because the earth is that. But I think that balance is what we want to strive for, and we can do that now. We can be in balance now, but we do need to use these let's say challenging months of this time as a prompt to face some of the woundings that we've had. And trust me, guys, it's I've met a lot of guys in the flat earth community who are typically left brain guys who are haven't necessarily had a woman by their side over the last few years who's been kind of supportive in the way that my wife has been. And although it's been like quite a lot of tension between us, because we've been working out our various things, and she's not necessarily wanted to come along, but where she has, it has really enriched my left brain aspect, or my male, kind of warrior, whatever that it is. She has offered me a way of seeing this in a far more balanced, and sort of spirit balanced way than I probably could ever reached on my own. So I think that I have, quite had an advantage of having had somebody to temper my natural skewed divine masculine approach to all of this. And so, I've never been a guy for, pushing religion and so on, but I like the example set by Jesus Christ, the man that Christians look to as the savior. I like the example set by him as like a template that we should perhaps all, not all, but I think that for me, and I think for others, this is what we should be striving for. And to achieve that, you've got to take care of your temple. You've got to take care of your head, your heart, and your body. These three parts, like, that are being so badly skewed over your lifetime. So you're not alone in that. If you're going through those things, let yourself go there. Andrea says to me sometimes, this hurt that you're going through, you have to go through, you have to face this stuff, and if you don't, you'll continue being just like that angry guy shouting in the street kind of thing. This is why I wanted to talk to Dave, because Dave feels a bit to me like that, like me, like I was, in a way still am, but I'm kind of trying to ameliorate that and move away from that and to develop something else, because I know that that's only a part of me, and that was a part of me wrought out of a crazy system. So I just offer that, because do your stretching, get your sun, if you can, in the face, and the moon as well, and the barefoot, and ground yourself, get your butt on the ground, get the root on the ground, and eat good food, that's healthy, and nourish yourself. And actually, I was just in closing, I was saying to someone, just tell your food that you love your food, even if it's not the best food in the world. If you tell yourself you're eating poison, your body will feel that. If you tell your body you're eating, and as someone said earlier on, they met Dr. Emoto, I think that even if you've got water that isn't the best water to drink, if you tell your water you love it and stuff like that will have a vibratory effect in that water, such that it helps to nourish you. You might have come across that, Scott, yourself, where people feed plants with water that they've loved on and water that they haven't, and they get a really different outcome.
Yeah, and I think the classic example is like your grandma making food, and it's like macaroni and cheese or whatever it is, but you get so much energy from it because of that love.
Yes.
It's that soul food connection, that transference of energy. And I just want to shout out Dave, Zoom Truth, his channel, or is that his channel right now? Zoom Truth or Zoom Truth 2 or what? I don't know. He's probably got multiple channels, but he's been doing some good work at farmers markets down in Florida, and he really wakes up a lot of people. And sometimes he is a little iffy and doesn't know if he's doing the right thing or if it has results. But I think he's getting, at the very least, you get to see who the amount of people that are awake and the amount of people that are really, really asleep. And there's more people awake than it sometimes seems, like through the screen. So it's not all doom and gloom, at least when you go out in the real world.
And to echo what you guys were just saying about the food, like loving your food, even if it's not the best food, I think you could like use that same model for every moment, like look for an opportunity to exercise that love muscle in those like moments. You're like, this last week, like our toilet broke, our inverter on our solar thing broke, our Jeep broke down in the highway. And like, I just kept like exercising that muscle to love the moment, and like being stuck on the highway, and it was a beautiful night, and just like the mountains had snow-capped mountains in Southern California. And like, I think that's what the test is. If we are that idea of what I was saying, the father living inside the mother, and like, there is an energy shared between the two, and we're the son, and we like being around two parents, like the more we sort of have a loving connection between the two, the more the balance is restored, and the more like simpatico we are with our lives and with our moments.
Yeah.
And if we get more frustrated in the moment, then it's sort of tension between the mother and the father, you know, the father inside, the mother outside. And then that's going to build some kind of frustrating reality for us, as that tension is going to need to be released in some kind of, you know, breakdown or something.
Yeah.
And then enjoy the breakdown. And I don't know.
Yeah, and hopefully we learn from that. And I think that we get to a point perhaps where those things may still happen, but when they happen, they don't have the same kind of lingering ripple effect in the pool, because the pool is far more balanced. Because this all comes back to balance, you know, not too much up here, not too much down there, somewhere in the middle. And I mean, and I think it's left and right as well, so all in balance. And then, you know, the vibration you will put out will be at the best amplitude, and hopefully we'll have the best results for you in your days going forward.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll say good night, guys, and thank you so much for your joining tonight. And
thanks for hosting.
Thanks for hosting. Yeah, and thanks everybody for tuning in and sharing this time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good day, everyone.
Good day, and take care.